Chapter 255. Good Pill. Reaching out to take the 5 Elements Divine Pill, Xianxia looked at it for a moment and couldn't help but praise. This pill was born with 5 colors and was surrounded by a 5-colored halo. It had all 5 elements and contained a great amount of connate qi. This pill alone was comparable to 1,000 years of cultivation for a golden immortal. In other words, if a golden immortal took this pill, he would immediately increase his cultivation by 1,000 years. The connate 5 elements qi was the essence of heaven and earth and was the most gentle. Immortal pills refined with it as the main ingredient would not explode even if a cultivator below the golden immortal realm took it. Instead, it would settle in the body of the user and continuously release energy until the energy was exhausted. Moreover, this pill was born of the connate 5 elements and could be said to be of the same origin as heaven and earth. In the primordial world, immortals, gods, demons, and sorcerers were not restricted. Any living being could consume it without any side effects. Although this connate 5 elements divine pill wasn't precious, it was quite magical and was not bad. From now on, this pill will be called the Creation Pill. The connate 5 elements Creation Pill. After a while, Xianxia's mind moved and he gave the 5 elements divine pill a name. The 5 elements gathered and creation was born. This pill was refined with the connate 5 elements qi and it was most appropriate to call it the Creation Pill. Putting the connate 5 elements Creation Pill aside, Xianxia looked at the connate yin-yang essence. Go! With an order, the great Tao furnace shook and released a great suction force, sucking in the connate yin-yang essence. Rumble! The great Tao furnace operated again, and the Tao fire burned even more fiercely. The refining power surged out, and a huge power leaked out, burning the void until it distorted. Not long after, the great Tao furnace returned to calmness, and the Tao fire gradually subsided. A divine pill surrounded by yin-yang qi slowly rose from the great Tao furnace, releasing black and white divine light. It looked extraordinary. This pill was black and white, surrounded by yin-yang qi. It was the essence of heaven and earth, the essence of the sun and moon, and could create a small kiliacosm. This pill could increase a Tai Jiangxian's cultivation by 1,000 years. Any living being of any realm could take it. It had the same nature as the innate 5 elements fortune pill, but it was of a higher level. This pill is also a good fortune pill. It can be called a pre-celestial yin-yang good fortune pill. It contains the power of good fortune and the wonders of yin and yang. After looking at the innate yin-yang nature elixir for a while, Xianxia decided on its name and placed it beside the innate 5 elements nature elixir. Then, he turned his gaze to the last strand of connate qi. Innate ancestor. Primal chaos origin qi. This was the true treasure of the untainted land. The treasure that even Daluo Jingxian needed. Boom! The furnace of the great path was trembling wildly. The runes of the great path on the furnace walls lit up one after another. Terrifying power spread out. Even the rules were twisting as if they could not withstand it. Under this power, the primal chaos origin energy shrunk continuously, gradually condensing into a small ball and turning into a gray chaos divine pill. No, this should be called a chaos Tao core. One could see a strange Taoist rhyme flowing on the Tao core that was refined by the chaos origin qi. It was as if it had been born naturally. It seemed to be explaining the principles of the universe, demonstrating the changes of the connate qi, and containing supreme creation. This chaos Tao core could increase the cultivation of a Daluo Jingxian by 1,000 years. It could help Tai Jingxian improve his connate origin energy, and increase the possibility of becoming a Daluo Jingxian. The primal chaos origin qi was born from heaven and earth. It contains the principles of the universe. It is the source of creation, the beginning of all things, and the ancestor of the connate. Therefore, this pill is called the Creation Tao Core. With a thought, Xianxia decided on the name of this chaos Tao core. This pill was also a type of creation elixir. However, compared to the innate yin-yang nature elixir, the essence of the creation Tao core was undoubtedly higher. It was the best of the 3 pills. At this point, the 3 strands of connate qi had all been refined into innate creation elixirs. Xianxia's grand plan was nearing its end. He only needed to complete the last step to succeed. Not bad. The 3 creation elixirs have been refined. This matter is done. Looking at the creation elixirs in front of him, Xianxia was a little excited. His grand plan was to set a currency for the primordial world. The current primordial world was still in the era of bartering. From the great mystical abilities to the postnatal living beings, if they wanted to trade, they would use treasures of the same value to exchange. There was no exception. Xianxia had lived in the primordial world for so long and had gradually gotten used to this method of trading. However, after the Grandmaster of Heaven accepted Zhao Gongming as his disciple, Xianxia suddenly remembered Zhao Gongming's identity in the future. Only then did he have a flash of inspiration and think of setting a currency for the primordial world. Zhao Gongming was the god of fortune. Although Xianxia's idea was good, it was not easy to find a currency that could be recognized by all living beings in the primordial world. If a currency wanted to be recognized, it had to have a great value that could allow all living beings in the primordial world to benefit from it. Or the person who issued it had a great influence and could obtain the unanimous approval of all living beings in the primordial world. Only then could he turn something rotten into something magical and make an ordinary item have extraordinary meaning. In the primordial world, there was only one person who could have such influence: Tao ancestor Hong Jun. The Tao ancestor had a noble status and lived in seclusion in the Purple Cloud Palace. If there was no major event in the primordial world, he would not appear. Xianxia did not have the ability to invite the Tao ancestor from the Purple Cloud Palace to guarantee the currency he issued so that it could obtain the approval of all living beings in the primordial world and replace the method of bartering. Therefore, he could only set his sights on the first method. In the primordial world, the only thing that all living beings in the primordial world liked and were closely related to it was the connate qi. After all, this was the foundation of cultivation. If all living beings in the primordial world wanted to cultivate, they could not do without it. The fact that spirit stones that contained spiritual energy in the future could be popular and become the currency of the cultivation world also proved this point. However, this was the primordial world after all. Moreover, it was the most prosperous era of the primordial world. The connate qi was extremely dense and almost turned into spiritual rain. It was not something that the harsh cultivation environment of the future could compare to. It was probably faster to absorb a mouthful of qi than to refine spirit stones. Therefore, in this environment, using spirit stones as currency would probably not be recognized by all living beings. However, methods were all thought of by people. Xianxia thought hard for thousands of years and finally thought of a way. Spirit stones could not be used as currency because their value was too low. It was not that this method was not good. Then, wouldn't it be fine to find a treasure that had the same nature as spirit stones but was more valuable than them? As a result, these 3 revival pills were born. The connate 5 elements creation pill had the cultivation of a golden immortal for 1,000 years. It was of great benefit to cultivators in the golden immortal realm and below. Chapter 256. The connate yin-yang creation elixir contained 1,000 years of cultivation of a Tai Jingxian. It was specially prepared for Tai Jingxian cultivators. Of course, if a golden immortal cultivator used it, the effect would be better. It would be very helpful for breaking through the Tai Jingxian. The Chaos Dao elixir was equivalent to 1,000 years of cultivation of a Daluo Jingxian. It was a currency prepared for transactions between Daluo Jingxian and quasi-sages. These 3 creation elixirs were both elixirs and currencies. They were similar to spirit stones, but of a higher level. Among them, the connate 5 elements creation elixir was the lowest level. Its raw materials were also the most common and could be found everywhere in the primordial world. Even if the raw materials could not be found, a golden immortal cultivator could condense one in 1,000 years. A Tai Jingxian could condense one in a year. A Daluo Jingxian was even more impressive. 10 minutes was enough. Only golden immortals had a foothold in the primordial world and could travel everywhere. The currency established by the Xianxia started with golden immortals as the starting point. The connate yin-yang creation elixir was refined from the connate yin-yang essence qi. Most of them were stored in the grotto heavens and blessed lands. It might be difficult for ordinary cultivators to find them. However, it did not matter if they could not find the connate yin-yang essence qi. Refining 10,000 connate 5 elements creation elixirs would allow them to refine 1 connate yin-yang creation elixir. Similarly, refining 10,000 connate yin-yang creation elixirs would allow them to obtain a chaos Dao elixir. As such, the creation elixir had all the characteristics that a currency should have. Moreover, the Xianxia had the 3 pure ones backing them. They were the top forces in the primordial world and had the ability to issue currencies. As long as they were recognized by the heavenly Tao, the creation elixir could replace the barter method and become the first currency in the primordial world. When that time came, great merit would naturally descend and great luck would be on their bodies. Moreover, even if the world changed and the laws changed greatly in the future, Khanate became postnatal and spirit stones and immortal stones became popular, the creation elixir would not be eliminated. It would continue to exist. That was because the creation elixir took the upper-class route. No matter how prosperous the spiritual stones and immortal stones were, their essence was there. In the end, they would not be of any use to Tai Jingxian and Daluo Jingxian, these people who had merged with Dao. The purpose of their existence was to assist low-level cultivators in their cultivation. They were of no use to powerful cultivators. No matter how much the primordial world had changed, the Daluo Jingxian had always been high and mighty. They were the mainstream of the primordial world. As long as the creation pill could satisfy their needs, then the creation pill would always be the mainstream. No matter what kind of currency appeared in later generations, it would not be able to shake his position. Only when the wills of all living beings were the same as the wills of the Daluo Jingxian would they become particularly important. However, when it came to arguing, Daluo Jingxian's will was naturally more important. The heavenly Tao is above. I, Xianxia, a disciple of the Xian sect, feel that in the primordial world, all living beings barter. It is inconvenient. Therefore, I specially refine the transformation pill and set the currency for the primordial world to replace the method of bartering and open the door for all living beings. May the heavenly Tao be the judge. Disciple Xianxia pays his respects. After setting up the offering table, Xianxia placed the 3 creation pills on it and announced to the heavens. As Xianxia's voice fell, the heavenly Tao immediately sensed it. It was as if a pair of eyes had descended and were coldly looking down on the world. In an instant, the wind and clouds above Kunlun Mountain changed. The mighty power of the heavenly Tao descended and shook the primordial world. Approved. A cold and emotionless voice suddenly resounded between heaven and earth, reverberating in all directions so that all living beings could hear it clearly. The heavenly Tao had approved of the creation pill. Suddenly, the 3 creation pills on the offering table slowly rose and burst into bright light. Their figures were reflected in the sky, allowing all living beings in the primordial world to see them clearly. In the next moment, under the influence of the ways of the world, the methods for refining the 3 pills of providence, as well as everything related, automatically appeared in the minds of all living beings. As a result, they naturally grasped the method of refining the pills. This was a gift from the heavenly Tao. It was the first time that money had appeared in the primordial world. All living beings did not know much about it. It was inevitable that the Tao of money would die prematurely. The heavenly Tao had personally enlightened all living beings and opened up the Tao of money for them. Of course, this benefit was only for this one time. It was only for living beings that were alive now. In the future, living beings that were born would not receive this treatment. If they wanted to refine the creation pill, they would need to rely on the guidance of their predecessors. Praise the 9 heavens immortal. We will remember the immortal's kindness in our hearts. After understanding the key to the creation pill, all living beings bowed in the direction of Kunlun Mountain. They even called out Xianqing's honorific name in unison to express their admiration for him. Money? Creation pill. This Taoist Xianqing is really a great talent. As expected of the chief disciple of the 3rd generation of the Xian sect, it seems that another great medium is about to be born. After finding out the reason for this matter from the heavenly Tao, a group of great mediums sighed. Every time the heavenly Tao made a move, the first to be alarmed were usually these great medium. This time was no exception. Everywhere in the eldritch world was in shock. On the contrary, Kunlun Mountain, which was the source of the incident, was exceptionally quiet. When the 3 pure ones heard about this, they only smiled and did not pay much attention to it. Since the saints did not speak, many disciples did not dare to speak either. Kunlun Mountain fell into silence just like that. Rumble. Above the sky, a golden light appeared first. Then it became bigger and bigger. It seemed to cover the sky and the sun as it surged towards Xianqing. This was the Shenhuang Merit Qi. The birth of money was a great contribution to the evolution of the heavenly Tao and the changes of the eldritch world. Therefore it should be rewarded. In the blink of an eye, the merit golden light arrived above Kunlun Mountain. It split into 2 in the air. 70% entered Xianqing's body, and 30% merged into the creation pill. Buzz buzz buzz. As the merit entered the body, the 3 creation pills underwent a wonderful change. They trembled in the air. The power of the heavenly Tao descended and enveloped the creation pills. In the void, countless Khanate Qi suddenly surged out of nowhere. It was boundless and drowned the creation pills. This change lasted for a long time. 100 years later, the Khanate Qi no longer surged out of the void. The changes of the creation pills also gradually disappeared. After another 100 years, the Khanate Qi in the surroundings was completely absorbed by the creation pills. The power of the heavenly Tao also quietly retreated. The creation pills reappeared in front of Xianxia. No, it should not be called the creation pills anymore. This was because the creation pills had disappeared from where the 3 creation pills were previously. They were replaced by a 7-colored jade bottle. If Xianxia was not wrong, the 7-colored light should be the Khanate Yin-Yang 5 elements Qi. The creation bottle was a middle-grade Khanate merit spiritual treasure. Holding the jade bottle in his hand, Xianxia naturally understood its origin. This was a Khanate spiritual treasure formed by the 3 creation pills combined with the merit Qi and the Khanate Qi with the help of the heavenly Tao. Other than being able to produce the creation pills on its own, it had no other use. Chapter 257. He, Xianxia, was Feng Zichen. He had the chaos bead and the tree of world. Not to mention the Qi of origin, he didn't even lack the Khanate origin. Therefore, the fate bottle seemed a little redundant to him. However, the fate bottle was a Khanate merit spiritual treasure after all. It had the ability to suppress fate. In addition, it was the origin treasure of the way of currency. When the fate pill became popular in the Eldritch world, it might be able to take another step forward. It would become a superior grade Khanate spiritual treasure or even a supreme grade Khanate spiritual treasure and give birth to a Khanate origin. In this way, the fate bottle would no longer be redundant. It would be a true auxiliary treasure that could help people break through the Daluo Jingxian. It was rare in the world. The current fate bottle could produce 1 Chaos Dao pill, 10,000 Khanate Yin-Yang fate pills, and 100 million Khanate 5 elements fate pills every 1,000 years. It was equivalent to 3 Daluo Jingxian. It was not bad. I'll keep it. It was better than nothing. Even if he couldn't use it, it was not bad to give the fate pills produced by the fate bottle to others as a favor. Putting away the bottle of fortune, Xianxia pondered for a moment. Suddenly, he stretched out his hand and grabbed at the void. A terrifying aura burst out, and the strength of a perfected golden immortal was fully displayed. He grabbed tens of thousands of Xiantian Qi from the void. Refine. Xianxia selected a few Khanate Qi from among them. He put them into the Great Path Furnace and refined them according to a special method. Mysterious runes flew out from Xianxia's hands. They kept guiding the Khanate Qi and arranged them into an inexplicable array formation. They gave birth to a strange power and gradually gathered into a ball to form the shape of a pill. That's right, Xianxia was refining pills. The Tao of pills was created by the Grand Pure One. Because it could help people cultivate, once the Tao of pills was born, it immediately became popular in the Eldritch world. Everyone learned it. As everyone knew, pills were refined from various Khanate spiritual herbs. It was very troublesome to collect them. Spiritual herbs needed time to grow. Every pill was not easy to come from. And Khanate spiritual herbs, to put it bluntly, were another form of Khanate Qi. Because of this, Xianxia had a bold idea. Since Khanate spiritual herbs could be refined into pills, why couldn't Khanate Qi that had the same nature? That was the reason for the current scene. The 3 pure ones each had their own strengths. The Grand Pure One was the ancestor of the Tao of pills, and no one in the primordial world could compare to him. The Jade Pure One was a Grand Master of weapon refinement, and no one in the primordial world could compare to him. The Prime Clear One was a Grand Master of array formations, and no one in the primordial world could compare to him. While Xianxia was known as a disciple of the Prime Clear lineage, he was actually taught by the 3 clear lineages. He possessed extraordinary insights into pill refinement, artifact refinement, and formations. Otherwise, he would not have made up his mind to create another method besides the traditional alchemy method. It was clear that he had a deep foundation and was full of confidence. With the help of Hongmeng Daozhong, Feng Zichen's comprehension ability was only inferior to Dao ancestor Hong Jun, who had the creation Jade Butterfly. He could be said to be the second in the primordial world. Even so, Xianxia was not confident. His achievements in the Tao of Alchemy had surpassed the Grand Pure One. His achievements in the Tao of Artifact Refinement had surpassed the Jade Pure Saint. His attainments in the field of formations had surpassed that of the Prime Clear Saints. It was not easy for him to come to the primordial world and have countless knowledge that far exceeded the era. Wouldn't it be a pity if he could not become the first in the Tao that he cultivated? Therefore, Xianxia painstakingly studied the three Taos under such a state of mind. He gathered the strengths of the three sects and finally opened up a method to refine pills with connate spirit qi, the Tao of qi pills. Since he could not surpass the three clear lineages, he would create another Tao on their foundation. It could be considered another kind of transcendence. After painstakingly studying the three Taos for many years, Xianxia had not only gained the Tao of qi pills. There were also many cultivation methods waiting for him to verify. Now, using connate qi to refine pills was to verify the Tao of qi. Xianxia's goal was to become the ancestor of the itinerant immortals of the primordial world and obtain the support of the supreme karma rank. If he wanted to become the ancestor of the itinerant immortals, the 100 arts of immortal cultivation, pill formations, talisman artifacts, were naturally indispensable. Xianxia was working hard for this. Buzz! After a tremor, a golden pill flew out of the great Tao furnace. It was accompanied by a golden halo and emitted a faint fragrance as it floated in the air. This was a golden pill at the first transformation. This was a golden pill refined with connate qi. Using a large array to refine the essence of connate qi, then using the method of refining weapons to form it, and finally using the method of refining pills to form it. In this way, the golden pill at the first transformation in front of Xianxia was formed. According to the Tai Ching pill scripture, the golden pill was formed by creation. It was divided into 9 transformations. The first transformation was the lowest and the creation was limited. It was used by celestial immortals. The golden pill had 9 transformations and endless creation. It could bring the dead back to life and go against the heavens to change one's fate. There were very few people in the primordial world who could refine the golden pill at the 9 transformations. Therefore, the golden pill at the 9 transformations was extremely precious. It was the pill used by Daluo Jingxian. The golden pill refined by Xianxia was only at the first transformation. In the primordial world, any cultivator who had entered the Tao of Alchemy could refine it. It was not considered a rare item. However, this golden pill at the first transformation was refined with connate qi. It had never appeared before the primordial world. Therefore it had an extraordinary meaning. It symbolized the beginning of a Tao and had great luck and merit. After the golden pill at the first transformation was born, the laws of heaven and earth appeared around it as if they were crowding around it. It was as if they were celebrating its birth. It was extremely magical. Even the heavens and earth were happy for its birth. However, only the golden pill at the 9 transformations could be completed. Only by refining the golden pill at the 9 transformations would the Tao of qi be considered complete. It would be qualified to appear in the primordial world and become one of the many Tao of cultivation in the primordial world. It would enjoy the qi of heaven and earth. Once again, he placed the golden pill refinement stage 1 into the great Tao furnace. Then, Xianxia grabbed the qi of connate and started to refine the pill again. A few days later, when the furnace fire was extinguished, the golden pill was born again. It was one step closer to advancing from the golden pill at the first transformation to the golden pill at the second transformation. Continue! With a wave of his sleeve, Xianxia repeated the action just now and prepared to refine the golden pill at the 3 transformations. A few months later, the golden pill at the 3 transformations was born. A few years later, the golden pill at the 4 transformations was born. After repeating this 7 times, the golden pill in front of Xianxia had become the golden pill at the 8 transformations. It was round and golden and had a 5-colored halo. It was extraordinary. Success or failure depends on this. Looking at the golden pill at the 8 transformations in front of him, Xianxia flipped his hand and took out 81 strands of connate qi of different attributes and placed them into the great Tao furnace. The Grand Pure One needed 81 types of connate spirit fruits to refine a golden pill at the 9 transformations. That was 81 strands of connate qi. The golden pill at the 9 transformations was endless. It could be useful to Daluo Jingxian. Its refining requirements were naturally precious. Otherwise, wouldn't the golden pill at the 9 transformations be overflowing in the primordial world? Things that defied the natural order must have their limitations, and that was the case. Chapter 258. Once the 9 transformations golden pill appeared, the Tao of Qi core would be completed. In this way, there would be another method in the untainted land, another Tao of alchemy, and another Tao of immortal cultivation. Xianxia could become the ancestor of Qi core and obtain great luck and merit. His status in the Tao of alchemy would be second only to the Grand Pure One. On the other hand, the failure of the 9 transformations golden pill meant that the Tao of Qi core was not perfect and not suitable to appear in the untainted land. It still needed to be perfected and waited for the future. The 9 transformations golden pill was also known as the Tao core. It contained the origin of the congenital realm and merged with Tao. Only in this way could it help Daluo Jingxian. In front of the great Tao furnace, Xianxia calmed his mind and carefully controlled his Dharma power to promote the fusion of the congenital qi to form the pill. Xianxia was personally taught by the Grand Pure One and had a deep understanding of the Tao of alchemy. Refining the 9 transformation golden pill was extremely difficult for others, but for him, it was just a matter of time and effort. It was not difficult at all. But that was using congenital spiritual herbs to refine the 9 transformations golden pill. It was also his first time using congenital qi to refine the 9 transformations golden pill, so he did not have much experience. Moreover, the success or failure of the 9 transformations golden pill determined the success or failure of the Tao of Qi core. He had to be careful. Just like that, 1,000 years later, a golden core surrounded by 7 colored halos slowly rose from the furnace of the Great Path. It exploded with brilliant light like a small sun, illuminating the entire universe. The 9 transformations golden pill was completed. 9 refinements took 3,333 years and 3 months. The 9 transformations golden pill, which represented the Tao of Qi core, was finally refined by Xianxia. There was no need to announce it to the heavens. The moment the 9 transformations golden pill was completed, the Tao of heaven sensed it and looked down. In just an instant, Xianxia felt that he was enveloped by a great and vast will, and he felt powerless from the bottom of his heart. Under this force, even if he was already a golden immortal, he felt like an ant, and he'd lost all his divine abilities and was completely unable to arouse the thought of resisting. It was the Tao of heaven. At this moment, Xianxia turned pale. The will of the Tao of heaven that had just left came again. Because in the untainted land, the only thing that could make Daluo Jingxian feel this way was the Tao of heaven. Unlike the previous time when the entire untainted land was alarmed, the arrival of the will of the heavenly Tao was completely silent and did not alarm too many people. Aside from Eastern Kunlun's 3 pure ones, Zhu Lin's true body under Qilin Cliff, and Western Kunlun's Queen Mother of the West, who sensed something in Kunlun Mountain, there was nothing else. The others didn't notice anything. The arrival of the will of the heavenly way was completely out of Xianxia's expectations. Although the Tao of Qi core was extraordinary, it was still a small Tao after all. Its influence on the primordial world was limited. It was far inferior to setting a currency, which had a profound influence on the primordial world. Xianxia originally thought that the heavenly Tao would bestow some merit and luck. He would announce the birth of the Tao of Qi core to the primordial world and this matter would end. However, he had never expected that as soon as the Tao of Qi core was formed, the will of the heavenly axiom would descend and appear near him, looking at him indifferently. This scared him to death. Could it be that there were still secrets about the way of Qi core that he did not know? For a moment, Xianxia's thoughts ran wild. The feeling of being stared at by the heavenly Tao was not a good feeling. Even Daluo Jingxian did not feel good about it. Xianxia's heart was already in a mess. Otherwise, with Daluo Jingxian's cultivation, his state of mind should be as calm as still water without any ripples. How could he let his thoughts run wild? Thou hast contributed to the primordial world. Thou shalt be rewarded. Just when Xianxia was so nervous that he could not help but ask the heavenly Tao. The will of the heavenly Tao spoke. It was fine if he did not speak, but once he spoke, he wanted to reward Xianxia. Then, under Xianxia's surprised gaze, a purple brilliance surged out from the void and merged into the 36 heavens in his body. Of course, Xianxia recognized that purple brilliance. It was the origin of the heavenly Tao that the heavenly Tao had bestowed to Feng Zichen. The origin of the heavenly Tao entered his body and went all the way up along the first heavens, passing through layers of heavens and directly arriving at the 36th heavens, the supreme heaven, Daluo heaven. As soon as he arrived at the Daluo heaven, the origin of the heavenly Tao suddenly dispersed and turned into purple runes. They were endless and merged with the heavenly palace in the middle of the heavens. There, the strongest supernatural power in the 36 heavens was nurtured. Rumble. After the originally illusory heavenly palace merged with the runes formed by the origin of the heavenly Tao, it gradually turned from illusory to real and quickly evolved. Golden stone as the palace, white jade as the stairs, magnificent and magnificent. There were phantoms of 10,000 spirits, dragons, phoenixes, cheilants. All kinds of auspicious beasts, there were all kinds of them. They turned into Tao patterns, vivid and lifelike, imprinted on the walls of the palace. There were rules manifested, surrounding the main hall, crowding him in the center, deducing the principles of the operation of heaven and earth, and endless Tao runes filled the air. This heavenly palace seemed to be at the top of the universe, high and mighty, looking down on everything. At the same time, it seemed to have become the center of heaven and earth, accepting the worship of all living beings in the primordial world. Above the tall and towering palace gate, there were 3 big words written with innate divine runes. Mi Luo Palace. This heavenly palace was called Mi Luo Palace. It was at the highest position of the 36 heavens, located in the Daluo heaven. It was eternal and all-encompassing. It was the supreme heaven that ruled over everything. In the myths of later generations, the Daluo heaven was the supreme heaven, and it was the residence of the Daluo Jingxian. And the Daluo Mi Luo Palace, if Xianxia remembered correctly, was the residence of the celestial emperor. It was the place where he ruled the 6 heavens, and it was also the most honorable place in the primordial universe. What does this mean? Is it appointing me as the celestial emperor? Looking at the Mi Luo Palace in his body, Xianxia couldn't help but make a bold guess. The incarnation of the origin of heaven, the top innate god-fiend in the primordial world, and the celestial lord of Xianmen, the first of the 3rd generation disciples. He could also sit on the throne of the celestial emperor. Otherwise, the heavenly Tao would symbolize the center of the universe's power. Why would the Mi Luo Palace, which ruled the heavens, manifest in the heaven realm in his body? Wasn't this intentionally appointing him as the celestial emperor? That was the celestial emperor. The highest position in the primordial world, the master of the universe in name. Everything in this world, whether it existed or not, whether it was life or death, or where it was under his rule. If an ordinary person could sit in this position, he would immediately have the strength second only to the saints. His status in name was even higher than that of the saints. In later generations, Hao Tian was called the celestial emperor, but he was actually a puppet. His position was really awkward. But when Tathagata saw him, he also had to bow and not dare to be disrespectful. When the 3 pure ones saw him, they also had to call him His Majesty to show respect. The celestial emperor was the master of the primordial world. His face was the face of the world. Disrespect to him was disrespect to the world. There would be a calamity, and no one was an exception. It was also because the power of the celestial emperor was too great that even the saints were afraid of him. That was why the 4 royals and 6 royals appeared one after another, taking away the power of the celestial emperor step by step. Chapter 259. Although Di Jun and Hao Tian were both celestial emperors, their natures were completely different. Di Jun had the strength that a celestial emperor should have, but because of the existence of Pangu's descendants, his position as the lord of the heavens and earth seemed to be a little unjustified. Hao Tian was the complete opposite of Di Jun. He, who had the strong support of Tao ancestor Hong Jun, rightfully sat on the position of celestial emperor. However, Hao Tian did not have the strength to match the position of celestial emperor, causing him to gradually be controlled by the saints in the future and become a puppet in name only. In the primordial world, strength was the most important. External forces were ultimately external forces, not as practical as one's own strength. Hao Tian's future situation was a true portrayal of virtue not matching the position. At this moment, in Xianxing's heart, he was already thinking about how to feign civility with the saints after he ascended the position of celestial emperor. Step by step, he would gradually get rid of the saints' control and become a true celestial emperor. At that time, the celestial emperor was him. The great emperor of Ziwei was him. The North Star Emperor was also him. The 4 royals occupied 2 and the 6 royals occupied 3. In this primordial world, who could shake his position and interfere with his rule? Even Tao ancestor Hong Jun could not. However, Xianxia was obviously thinking too much. How could the position of celestial emperor be so easy? Jun had the merit of the sun star shining on the primordial world, which was why he could ascend the throne of Celestial Emperor. Hao Tian was not worthy of the position. After becoming Celestial Emperor, he had to enter the world to experience tribulations to accumulate merit. In the primordial world, he had experienced a total of 132 million tribulations. Each tribulation should have taken 129,600 years. In total he had spent about 157 billion years before he achieved success and regained the position of the Celestial Emperor. He was limitless and immeasurable. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was to ascend to the position of Celestial Emperor. Xianxia's identity as a disciple of the Celestial Sect of Wonders was far from enough. To forcefully ascend to the position of Celestial Emperor, Hao Tian's fate was a lesson. A purple light flashed, allowing Xianxia to understand the function of Mi Luo Palace. The highest achievement of the 36 heavens, the supreme Mi Luo Palace. It controlled the rules of heaven and earth, ruled all the laws in the world, integrated into one, supreme, and destroyed all existence. This was the supreme power that belonged to the Celestial Emperor. At the initial stage, one could combine all the divine abilities in the world and combine them into one, erupting with unparalleled power. At the middle stage, one could control the laws of heaven and earth. When they attacked, it was as if heaven and earth were pressing down, destroying everything. In the later stages, he could command everything in the primordial world, regardless of whether it was people, objects, spells, or Tao. As long as it existed, it could be controlled. Its power was incomparable, its divine might inconceivable. That was why it was called a supreme great divine ability. What a waste of joy! Xianxia was a little disappointed after learning about the function of Mi Luo Palace. Although this mystical ability was powerful and could be ranked in the top 10 in the primordial world, it was still far inferior to the position of Heavenly Emperor. The position of Celestial Emperor was a treasure that allowed one to ascend to the heavens in a single bound. It was also the most precious treasure in the primordial world. But fortunately, with encompassing Net Palace here, once the future Heavenly Emperor loses his position, we can rely on this palace to fight for it. After thinking about it, Xianxia comforted himself. In the primordial world, besides strength, status was also extremely important. Don't you see that those who occupy high positions all have extremely honorable backgrounds? The Magi did not respect the heavens and the earth. They only respected Pengu. Even Tao ancestor Hongjun was not in their eyes. Even so, the witch race still dominated the primordial world. Tao ancestor Hongjun did not dare to kill them. What was the reason? It was because they had the status of Pengu's descendants. Relying on this status, the primordial world would naturally protect them and not let them encounter the calamity of death. If not for the fact that the witch race failed to live up to expectations and created endless killing and lost the protection of heaven and earth, how could the position of the protagonist of heaven and earth fall to the human race? Encompassing Net Palace was the most precious place in the primordial world. It was one of the symbols of the Heavenly Emperor. Since Xianxia controlled it, he naturally had the qualifications to fight for the position of Heavenly Emperor. Perhaps, with encompassing Net Palace, Xianxia could even obtain many supporters. After the origin of the Heavenly Tao descended, the will of the Heavenly Tao slowly retreated. At the same time, changes occurred in the sky above Kunlun Mountain again. Heaven and earth merit gathered and surged towards Xianxia. Before reaching Xianxia, the heaven and earth merit split into two. 30% landed on the 9 transformations golden core, and 70% continued to surge towards Xianxia. However, at this moment, Xianxia waved his sleeve and injected the merit that was surging towards him into the 9 transformations golden core. Suddenly, the 7-colored halo on the 9 transformations golden core became even brighter and turned into a divine ring that surrounded its body. The Tao runes flowing on its body also underwent a transformation. Mysterious runes were born and arranged layer by layer, combining with each other and turning into a mysterious connate Tao that merged with the 9 transformations golden core. At this moment, it was no longer a core, but a Tao. Its body carried a mysterious connate Tao. The name 9 transformations golden core was no longer suitable for it. Now it was a Tao fruit. The Daluo Tao fruit could create a Daluo Jingxian Tao fruit. The 9 transformations golden core, which originally contained powerful medicinal power, underwent an unimaginable transformation with the help of the heaven and earth merit and became a rare treasure in the world. The Daluo Tao fruit. This item may be of great use in the future. Xianxia could not think of a way to use the Daluo Dao fruit in such a short time, so he put it away and waited for the future. After that, with the help of the heavenly path, everything about the Dao of Qi core spread throughout the entire Eldritch land in an instant. Good. This is what a successor should be like. After understanding the essence of the Dao of Qi core, the three pure ones were overjoyed and could not help but praise. At this moment, Xianxia finally broke free from their influence and walked on his own Dao. His future was limitless and he had the possibility of attaining the Dao of chaos. How could the three pure ones not be happy? If they followed the path of others, although they could progress smoothly and quickly, they would never achieve great things. Only by blazing one's path through brambles and thorns would one be able to walk further and longer. Hiss. How long has it been? It has only been about 3,000 years since the birth of the creation pill and the establishment of the Eldritch land currency. This Taoist Xianxia has also established the Dao of Qi core. This celestial lord of the Xian sect is really good at causing trouble. 3,000 years was just a blink of an eye for the great divines. But in the blink of an eye, Xianxia had established another Dao, which made them suspicious. Since when did establishing a Dao become so simple? First, there was the sword ancestor, then there was Xianxia. These two are people of great wisdom. I wonder what changes they will bring to the Eldritch land? In just 10,000 years, the Eldritch land had undergone earth-shaking changes. First, there was the birth of the Dao of Sword, then the Dao of Currency and the Dao of Qi core. The changes were more intense than the previous tens of millions of years. I wonder what the future will be like? At this moment, in the Eldritch land, there was another change. Above Kunlun Mountain, endless merit gathered. Chapter 260. How could this be? What is Taoist Xianxia doing? Why is there no end to it? Looking at the merits above Kunlun Mountain, the great mediums were helpless. In the blink of an eye, the Xianhuang merit had descended 3 times. Could it be that the primordial heavenly path belonged to him? What's going on? Looking at the Xianhuang merit that was surging towards him, Xianxia was a little confused. He did not know where these merits came from. Originally, Xianxia had planned to leave the Xianqing Palace and go to the Jade Void Palace to visit the three pure ones and share his joy with them. But who knew that before he could move, boundless merit would suddenly descend from the sky, causing him to be a little surprised for a moment. This merit came out of nowhere, and it really made him a little confused. The great sage is merciful. Great sorrow and great wish. Save the suffering and save the suffering, infinite and boundless. Praise the 9 heavens immortals. The great sage is merciful. Great sorrow and great wish. Save the suffering and save the suffering and save the suffering, infinite and boundless. Praise the 9 heavens immortals. The great sage is merciful. Great sorrow and great wish. Save the suffering and save the suffering and save the suffering, infinite and boundless. Praise the 9 heavens immortals. Just as Xianxia was puzzled, the praises of all spirits suddenly sounded in his ears. One after another, it was incomparably grand. It was inexplicably moving and shook his heart. What's going on? Why is there the wish of all spirits coming? The sudden turn of events made Xianxia confused and shocked. Other than the Dao of Currency and the Dao of Qi core, he did not do anything else. It was true that these 2 Daos could obtain merit, but it was a little exaggerated to say that they could attract the gratitude of all spirits. Only the gratitude of all spirits from the bottom of their hearts could stimulate the power that was enough to shake everything in his heart. Obviously, the Dao of Qi core and the Dao of Currency did not have this ability. No matter what Xianxia thought, the merit aura was still surging. It covered the sky and covered the earth, covering everything. Virtuous qi was everywhere, and nothing could be seen. Otherwise, with the strength of Daluo Jingxian and the strength of many great mediums, how could they not see what was going on? Rumble! More and more Xianhuang merits were accumulated. In the blink of an eye, it exceeded the capacity of Xianxing's body. It gushed out of his body and formed a golden cloud above Kunlun Mountain that covered an area of 1,000 miles. Moreover, as the number of merits increased, the auspicious cloud continued to expand, attracting the attention of countless people. Just like that, the golden auspicious clouds above Kunlun Mountain turned into a radius of 10,000 miles. The virtuous qi in the sky gradually stopped, and the heavens regained their clarity. After careful calculation, the Xianhuang merit points that Xianqing obtained this time were no less than the merit points that he obtained when he created the Xiantian sword Dao. That also meant that without him knowing, he had done something that was of great merit to all living beings and had an endless and far-reaching impact on the future of the primordial world. Otherwise, the heavenly Dao wouldn't have given him so much merit, and he wouldn't have obtained the power of all spirits. Spirit race. The moment Tianji became clear, Xianqing learned about the origin of the black-yellow merit. It was the race with the largest population and the least sense of existence in the untainted land, the spirit race. The spirit race was the general name of the primordial world's plants. Flowers, trees, mountains, rivers, spiritual herbs, immortal roots, and all the natural spirits of the primordial world could be called the spirit race. However, it was too difficult for a natural spirit to transform. Not only did it take a long time, but there were also countless calamities waiting for them. Every natural spirit was an extremely precious spiritual herb. It was needed to assist in cultivation, and it was even more needed to refine pills. As such, their fate could be imagined. Moreover, the higher the grade of the connate spirit root, the more difficult it was to transform. It was almost impossible for a top-grade connate spirit root to transform. All these reasons combined made the number of experts of the spirit race extremely small. There were very few Daluo Jinxian. There were almost none of them with top-grade combat strength. It wasn't that there weren't any. In terms of strength, the spirit race might not be weaker than the shamans and demons. That was because the spirit race had produced two primordial chaos experts. In this way, the shamans and demons without primordial chaos experts seemed to be inferior to the spirit race. They didn't dare to. Their success was due to primordial chaos, and their failure was also due to primordial chaos. How much providence was needed to support two primordial chaos experts? Therefore, the birth of two primordial chaos experts almost drained the spirit race's luck and foundation, causing the spirit race to completely decline. It had not recovered to this day. In the primordial world, the spirit race had ended up in such a miserable state. It might be related to this. Unfortunately, the origins of these two primordial chaos experts were complicated. Their thoughts were elsewhere, and they completely ignored the life and death of the spirit race, leaving it to fend for itself. Otherwise, with two primordial chaos experts, even if the spirit race could not become the protagonist of the world and rule the primordial world, it would not be difficult for them to become an overlord and watch the changes of time. Otherwise, how could they have ended up in such a miserable state? Of the two primordial chaos experts, one was the primordial chaos expert, Great Immortal Yang Mei. His main body was one of the 10 great connate spirit roots of the primordial world, the hollow willow tree. His cultivation was unfathomable, and he was the first existence to reach the primordial chaos in the primordial world. He had achieved the Tao before the Tao ancestor. It was said that the Tao ancestor once fought with Yang Mei and used all his spiritual treasures, but he did not touch him at all. Instead, all his spiritual treasures were taken away by him, which greatly embarrassed him. From this, it could be seen how powerful Great Immortal Yang Mei was. Moreover, the predecessor of Great Immortal Yang Mei was even more terrifying. He was the space demon god, ranked second among the 3,000 chaos demon gods. His strength had reached an incredible level, second only to Pengu. Such a figure could not forget the chaos outside the realm. The primordial world was not in his eyes. So what was the spirit race? The second primordial chaos expert was a high and mighty saint. One of the top 10 primordial spiritual roots in the primordial world was the primordial Bodhi tree. He was the second sect master of the Western sect, Taoist Zhuanti. Taoist Zhuanti's thoughts were needless to say. He wanted to strengthen the Western sect and restore the prosperity of the ancient West. Just the Western sect alone made him feel a little powerless. How could he care about the life and death of the spirit race? This led to the current situation of the spirit race. Today, the spirit race thanked Xianqing because of the influence of the Tao of Qi core. With the birth of the Tao of Qi core, if people wanted to refine elixirs, they could also collect the primordial qi to refine elixirs. In this way, countless spirit race could avoid the disaster of being destroyed and had a slight chance of becoming Tao. With a thought, countless people could be saved. Wouldn't that be immeasurable merit? Although Xianqing established the Tao of Qi core, he simply wanted to open another branch outside the traditional Tao of pills. He did not think so much at all. However, the heavenly Tao did things based on one's actions, not one's heart. As long as one did something with great merit, there would be Xianhuang merit, even if it was just unintentional. That was how Xianqing's merit came about. Chapter 261. Spiritual Venerable? Under the wishes of the Ling clan, Xianqing found that there was a new karmic rank on him. Spiritual Venerable, the Venerable of the Ling clan. With the Spiritual Venerable karmic rank, Xianqing's body immediately had a wonderful change. In his perception, the world was different. Everything had come alive and was releasing their emotions to their heart's content. Their happiness, anger, sorrow and joy, and everything they had experienced in the past were all sensed by Xianqing. Even the things that happened here in the past were spied by Xianqing from the memories of all things. Listen to the sound of everything. This was a gift from the Ling clan, and it was also a supreme magic that only belonged to the Spiritual Venerable. What does the way of heaven mean? Does it want me to control all kinds of creatures with this karmic rank so that I can become the great emperor of the Eastern Pole? After experiencing the changes in his body, Xianqing thought with some doubts. The great emperor of the Eastern Pole, one of the 6 royals, was the lord of all kinds. He ruled all kinds of creatures and was one of the most honorable beings in the world. Of course, as one of the 6 royals, the power of the great emperor of the Eastern Pole was naturally not so simple. He was also one of the rulers of the underworld and a great saint who saved people from suffering. He had supreme power. However, these had nothing to do with Xianqing now. What he cared about was the meaning of the Spiritual Venerable karmic rank. Although the great emperor of the Eastern Pole had great power and many authorities, but the lord of all races was the foundation of his existence. And the authority of a Spiritual Venerable was part of his authority. Therefore, when the great emperor of the Eastern Pole was born, Xianqing, the Spiritual Venerable, was bound to be restrained by him. Either he was subordinate to him, or he gave up the Spiritual Venerable karmic rank. There was no third choice. However, Xianqing really didn't like to be subordinate to others. Xianqing was even more unwilling to give up what he got. Therefore, in order to not let himself be wronged, the position of the great emperor of the Eastern Pole was. He was definitely going to be the Spiritual Venerable karmic rank. In this way, it coincides with my plan to secretly control the heavenly court. With a smile, Xianqing hid the merit on his head and rushed to the Jade Palace. After making so many movements, no matter what, he had to explain it to the 3 Pure Ones, even though the 3 Pure Ones already knew everything. Because this was his duty as a disciple. Just as Feng Zichen was in seclusion to refine the mortal Dao Imperial Court and Xianqing was visiting the 3 Pure Ones, a conspiracy against the shaman and demon races was slowly unfolding. On Mount Meru, Daoist Juanti's heart stirred. He left the place and rushed towards the East Sea. Meanwhile, in the heavenly court, demon god Defeng was ordered by Di Jun to leave the heavenly court and head to the East Sea's Valley of Tang to reprimand the 10 demon princes. After the 6 sages attained the Tao, the Eastern Emperor Tai felt that his strength was insufficient. He pushed aside all mundane matters and focused on seclusion on the sun, hoping to step into the primordial chaos Tao realm as soon as possible. As such, the matter of teaching the 10 golden crows was naturally put aside. As the celestial emperor, Di Jun had to maintain the operation of heaven and earth. He was too busy to find the time to discipline the 10 golden crows. In order to give birth to the 10 golden crows, Shiha's origin was damaged. She had no choice but to return to the lunar star to recuperate in seclusion. As for Fuxi, Kuanpang, and the demon gods of the heavenly court, they all had important matters to attend to and had no time to teach the 10 golden crows. Helpless, Di Jun could only leave the 10 golden crows to the palace maids. However, the palace maids had limited talent and low status. The highest cultivation level among them was only Tai Jingxian. When facing the 10 golden crows, it was already extraordinary that they could barely maintain their composure. How would they dare to criticize the 10 golden crows? As a result, the 10 golden crows became lawless. The 10 golden crows were bored in the heavenly court and wanted to go to the primordial world to take a look. They ignored the palace maid's obstruction and rushed towards the southern heavenly gate. The golden crows were the spirits of the sun. Their bodies were covered in true sun fire that could burn the sky and boil the sea. They were extremely powerful. This was especially so for the 10 golden crows. As they were born and not born naturally from the sun star, they should not be so powerful. However, Shiha was eager to love her son. When the 10 golden crows were still in the gestation stage, She did not hesitate to exhaust her own origin. She used the extreme yin to generate yang to forcefully strengthen their origin. With this help, after the 10 golden crows were born, their innate origin was sufficient. They were all innate god fiends and were not inferior to the gods born naturally from the sun star. However, there were gains and losses. Although the 10 golden crows had obtained strength that far exceeded their own, they had also paid a price. Before Daluo Jingxian, they were unable to fully control their own strength, causing the true sun fire to leak out and keep people away. Therefore, if the 10 golden crows ran to the primordial world rashly, the true sun fire emitted from their bodies would cause a terrible disaster to the primordial world. Unfortunately, the 10 golden crows were noble. Even if the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals had the strength to take them down, who would dare to do so? Fortunately, when the 10 golden crows were about to rush out of the southern heavenly gate, Kuan Peng returned to the heavenly court because of Feng Zichen and bumped into them. The heavenly generals did not dare to attack the 10 golden crows, but Kuan Peng did not have such scruples. He immediately took them down and brought them to Di Jun for him to deal with. Di Jun was very angry about the 10 golden crows' actions. He immediately locked the 10 golden crows in the Tang Valley. They were not allowed to come out until their cultivation was Daluo Jinxian's. Demon god Defeng went out of the southern heavenly gate. After confirming the direction, he flew straight to the East Sea. However, just as he was about to reach the East Sea, a 7-colored light suddenly appeared in the void and enveloped him. But strangely, Defeng did not seem to notice the abnormality around him. He continued to rush to the Tang Valley without looking back. This 7-colored light was naturally formed by Taoist Juanti. Otherwise, with the strength of demon god Defeng and Daluo Jingxian, how could he not notice the abnormality? Only a saint could do something like that. The Tang Valley, the legendary place where the sun rises. Of course, this was only a legend in the future. Since ancient times, the sun star had always been high above the 9 heavens. It had never changed. Naturally, there would not be a place where the sun rises and sets. The so-called place where the sun rises was just a misunderstanding caused by the 10 golden crows playing here. They were seen by others and spread false rumors over countless years. Open! Outside the Tang Valley, Defeng took out the token given to him by Di Jun and drew in the void. Suddenly, the void was like the surface of the water, undulating. Innate formation patterns appeared and entangled with each other, gradually forming a passage. This formation was called the Halua Formation. It was specially set up by Di Jun to prevent the 10 golden crows from sneaking out. Walking along the passageway, the first thing that greeted them was a towering mulberry tree that blocked out the sun. This was the largest branch of the innate Fusong tree, one of the 10 great innate spiritual roots of the primordial world. It was cut down by Di Jun and placed in the Tang Valley for the 10 golden crows to rest. Chapter 262. Defeng of the Demon Clan greets the 10 princes. Under the mulberry tree, Defeng bowed slightly and said, "It's Defeng. The demon god Defeng is here. Father sent someone to see us." On the mulberry tree, the 10 golden crows heard the commotion and flew to Defeng, shouting excitedly. "Defeng, Defeng. Did Imperial Father send you here to let us out? Or to bring us back to the heavenly court? The Valley of Tang is too small and too boring. It's not fun at all. It's far less lively than the heavenly court." The 10 golden crows scrambled to ask as they came to Defeng. Obviously, the time in the Valley of Tang had suffocated them. "No." Defeng shook his head and replied, "His Majesty sent me to urge you to cultivate well and strive to advance to the realm of Daluo Jingxian as soon as possible." "Ah, it's not to let us out." Hearing this, the big golden crow said with disappointment, his expression full of depression. "A golden immortal of the great firmament. How many years would it take to step into that realm? 100,000 years? 1,000,000 years? How many years had it been since they were born? It had only been a few 100,000 years, not even as old as Feng Zichen. But now, they had to wait bitterly in a small place like the Valley of Tang for tens of millions of years. How could these young golden crows endure this? Father is really too much. We just wanted to go to the primordial world to take a look. We didn't do anything, and he directly locked us in the Valley of Tang, not allowing us to leave this place. This is too much." The 10 golden crows muttered in dissatisfaction. Defeng was speechless. These little ancestors really did not know how many sins they would commit if they went to the primordial world for a tour, and how much karma they would attract. At that time, even if they were the sons of the celestial emperor, they would not be able to escape the calamity of death. No one would be able to save them. Your Highness, don't say that. His Majesty is doing this for your own good. At this moment, an undetectable seven-colored light suddenly appeared on Defeng's body, causing him to be in a daze. When he came back to his senses, the words that he wanted to describe the pros and cons of the 10 golden crows became words of provocation. The princes are still too young. They do not know the dangers of the primordial world and His Majesty's painstaking efforts. In the untainted land, there is a great evil of the world, the sorcerer tribe. They are extremely ferocious. They feed on us demons and dominate the untainted land. Even His Majesty could do nothing to them. He could only retreat to the heavenly court and use Zhoxing as a barrier to resist them. What? How is this possible? We demons have the heavenly courts. Who in the primordial world can compare to us? My uncle is the strongest in the primordial world. He can even suppress a saint. How powerful is the Magi? How can they be above us demons? Before Defeng could finish, the 10 golden crows angrily interrupted him. After all, the 10 golden crows were still young, so Jun would naturally not mention the Wu tribe in front of them. As for the palace maids, it was even more impossible for them to talk about the Wu tribe. They would only choose to talk about something nice. Therefore, ever since the 10 golden crows were born, they had been living in the illusion that the demon clan was invincible in the untainted world. Now, they suddenly heard that there was an even more powerful wizard clan above the demon clan. As such, they could not accept it at once. Their mentality exploded on the spot. Damn the Wu tribe! How dare they feed on us demons? They really deserve to die. When we come out, we will kill them all and clear the name of our demon clan. Flying in the air, the 10 golden crows said hatefully. Haha. At this moment, Defeng suddenly laughed. Demon deity Defeng, why are you laughing? Did we say something wrong? Defeng's attitude angered the golden crows and they questioned him. I'm laughing at your highness' naivety. The Wu tribe is powerful. Even His Majesty does not dare to fight with them. Your highness's cultivation is not as good as Daluo Jinxian's. What gives you the confidence to say that you want to destroy the Wu tribe? Aren't you boasting? Under the influence of the 7-colored light, Defeng seemed to have changed into a different person. He said all kinds of outrageous words in the air, constantly provoking the 10 golden crows. Defeng, how dare you? Do you know what you're saying? With the arrogant temperament of the 10 golden crows, they could not stand Defeng's mockery. They immediately shouted at him, their eyes sharp and full of killing intent. If it were not for his identity as a demon deity, they would have torn him to pieces on the spot. There was no doubt that the 10 golden crows had the ability to kill Daluo Jinxian. As the sons of Jun, they had many magic treasures and countless trump cards. There was no lack of means to kill Daluo. You can't stand it? Then do you know why His Majesty has locked you up here? It's because the Wu tribe has spread the word that they want to capture you as snacks. His Majesty is afraid and has to hide you in the Valley of Tang to prevent any accidents from happening to you. If His Majesty is not afraid of the Wu tribe, he would have destroyed them after the Wu tribe spread the word. Why would he let you hide here? At this moment, Defeng had completely lost his mind and was completely influenced by Kundi. His every move was according to his thoughts. How dare you? What a disgrace! I want to destroy the Wu tribe. At this moment, the 10 golden crows' eyes were red and their bodies were full of killing intent. The sun's genuine fire rolled out and burned the void until it was distorted. If it were any other time, Defeng's nonsense would not have been able to fool the 10 golden crows. However, with Kundi present, Defeng was not the only one who was bewitched. The strength of the 10 golden crows was only Tai Jinxian. It was much easier for Kundi to play with their minds than for Defeng. Let's go out and have a look. Let's see what the Wu tribe is capable of. How dare they treat us as snacks? The more they thought about it, the angrier they became. The 10 golden crows shouted at the same time and suddenly merged into one huge golden crow. This was the divine sense of the 10 golden crows. As they were of the same origin, they could merge into one and temporarily raise their strength to a higher level. In other words, this huge golden crow had the strength of Daluo Jingxian. Caw! With a long caw, the golden crow moved and suddenly came in front of Defeng. It snatched Di Jun's token from his hand, opened the formation, and left the Valley of Tang. It flew straight to the untainted land. Oh no! This is a disaster! As the 10 golden crows left, Defeng felt a strong sense of danger and recovered a trace of clarity. At this moment, he could not care less and hurriedly chased after the 10 golden crows. After all, Defeng was too influenced by Kundi and lost his former wisdom. Otherwise, he would have returned to the heavenly court and asked Di Jun for help instead of chasing after the 10 golden crows. However, the golden crow left the Valley of Tang and directly turned into a long rainbow, disappearing in the blink of an eye. The rainbow transformation technique was the divine sense of the golden crows. In terms of speed, it could be ranked in the top 3 in the untainted land. Defeng could not easily catch up with it. Chapter 263. Tai, the poor way of the past made me lose face. Today, the poor way will give you retribution. Your golden crow clan will have no descendants. After Defeng left, Taoist Zhuanti's figure slowly appeared in the void. When he received Zhuanti to become a saint, it should have been the most glorious moment of his life. However, they were humiliated by Dong Huang Tai and achieved his supreme reputation. He was completely reduced to the background. At that time, Taoist Zhuanti secretly swore to give Dong Huang Tai retribution. Now, retribution had come. In this world, what was more painful than the tragic death of one's family and the destruction of one's life's efforts? Kill the golden crows and destroy the demon race. This was what Zhuanti did. Above the East Sea, a golden rainbow flew away. Wherever it passed, the sea water evaporated, and the aquatic creatures turned into ashes. It was unknown how many people it had killed. However, the golden rainbow was too fast. When the mighty figures of the East Sea looked over, it had already disappeared. In the human clan's ancestral hall, Feng Zichen, who was refining the human Dao imperial court, suddenly had an ominous premonition. It became more and more intense, waking him up. What happened? From this premonition, Feng Zichen vaguely sensed that something big was going to happen in the primordial world. Its influence was far beyond imagination. Yes, it's the golden crows. The 10 golden crows are traveling in the primordial world. Is the great shaman-demon war about to begin? Separating a strand of divine thought, Feng Zichen looked outside. What he saw was a golden rainbow flying over. With his eyesight, how could he not recognize the origin of the golden rainbow? It was the 10 golden crows, the sons of the celestial emperor. The 10 of them are really Di Jun's good sons. Looking at the 10 golden crows flying over, Feng Zichen sighed. Although the shamans and demons had a deep grudge, after so many years of fighting, they gradually reached a balance. The demons controlled the sky, and the shamans controlled the earth. The two races lived in peace for a long time, and the primordial world ushered in a long time of peace. However, the 10 golden crows destroyed this great situation. This completely ignited the hatred between the shamans and demons, leading to an unprecedented war between the two races. That is, the Second World War of the Liches, the final battle of the Liches. It could be said that the 10 golden crows traveling to the primordial world was the fuse for everything. Everything happened because of this. The exciting years of ups and downs in the future were also pulled open because of this. At this moment, looking at the 10 golden crows, Feng Zichen could not help but feel as if he was witnessing history, and his heart was indescribably excited. Not good, humans. Suddenly, Feng Zichen thought of something and could not help but cry out. He no longer cared about refining the royal court and left the ancestral shrine with a flash. Wherever the golden crow passed, the power of the Grand Sun True Fire would be unleashed and wreak havoc, causing the earth to be scorched and the rivers to dry up. What would happen if they were to pass by the human race? Although the East Sea was protected by Nuwa's enchantment, there was no need to worry about the Grand Sun primordial fire. However, the human cities outside the ancestral land did not have such good treatment. If they were unlucky and happened to be in the path of the golden crow, they would probably be burned to ashes by the Grand Sun True Fire in an instant. 5 Emperors Canopy. Outside the ancestral land, Feng Zichen's mind moved, and the 5 chi in his body surged and flew out of his body, forming a huge 5-colored canopy in the air. This time, the Emperor's shadows imprinted on the 5 Emperors' canopy were no longer the 5 elements sacred beasts, but the 5 elements demon gods, the 5 chaos demon gods. Therefore, as soon as the 5 Emperors' canopy appeared, it connected to the connate 5 elements Tao. No, not connected but requisitioned. As the 5 elements demon god roared, he actually forcibly requisitioned the power of the connate 5 elements Tao, pulling it out from the underworld and circling it around his body. This was the first time Feng Zichen used the 5 Emperors' great mystique after confirming Daluo Jinxian's Tao. He did not expect that after not using it for a long time, the 5 Emperors' great mystique would transform to such an extent. It would not be an exaggeration to call it a great Tao mystique. At this moment, the 5 Emperors' canopy was the Tao, the connate 5 elements Tao. Under the powerful power of the 5 elements demon god, it temporarily replaced the existence of the connate 5 elements Tao. It was clearly in front of Feng Zichen, but it was omnipresent. This was the magic of the connate Tao. It was compatible with the origin of heaven and earth, and it was omnipresent in the primordial world. The moment the 5 Emperors' canopy replaced the connate 5 elements Tao, almost at the same time, the figures of the 5 Emperors' canopy appeared in the sky above all the cities and tribes of the human race. Streams of 5 elemental qi descended, protecting them within. In the sky above the East Sea, 10 golden crows passed by with long golden tails. Specks of golden light floated down from the sky and fell to the ground. That was the true sun fire. Every speck could burn a Jianghu to death. It was extremely terrifying. Fortunately, the East Sea was protected by the barrier set up by Nuwa. Before the true sun fire could fall, it was destroyed by Nuwa's barrier in midair. Otherwise, the human race would have suffered great losses. The other territories of the human race were protected by the 5 Emperors' canopy, so they did not need to worry about the true sun fire. All the humans outside, listen to my order. From now on, rush back to the ancestral land. No mistakes. Seeing the 10 golden crows leave, Feng Zichen gave the order. Next would be the fall of the golden crows and the war between the liches and the demons. That was a war that would affect the entire primordial world. If they stayed outside, wouldn't they be courting death? The 10 golden crows flew all the way, completely ignoring the lives of the people on the way. Their rationality was blinded by anger, and there was only one thought in their mind. Kill all the sorcerer tribe. Kill. 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 Ha. How satisfying. How can the sorcerer tribe compete with us demons? With such strength, how dare they say that they are going to treat us as snacks? How ridiculous. In a certain sorcerer tribe, the 10 golden crows looked at the sorcerer tribe struggling in the true sun fire and laughed wildly. Their words were full of contempt. However, they who had been bewitched by Kundi did not know that they had the power of a golden immortal of the great all-embracing heaven, while the Wu tribe below them was just a group of primordial unity golden immortals. Bullying the weak, Daluo Jinxian killed Jianghu. What was there to be proud of? Seeing that the sorcerer tribe was so weak, the 10 golden crows became more confident. They continued to fly forward, looking for new sorcerer tribes and repeating their actions. In this way, the 10 golden crows relied on the power of Daluo Jinxian to run amok and destroy more than a dozen sorcerer tribes. The 10 golden crows' wild actions naturally attracted the attention of the sorcerer tribe experts. Hey! How dare you bully my people, feathered beast? Take my staff. Just as the 10 golden crows were looking for the sorcerer tribes, a huge peach staff suddenly appeared in the void and struck towards them. It was the great sorcerer of the Hutu tribe, Kuo-fu. How dare you, barbarian? How dare you humiliate me like this? Hearing the words feathered beast, the 10 golden crows' eyes instantly turned red. Terrifying killing intent filled the air, and the true sun fire swept out to meet the peach staff. Chapter 264. Rumble. Terrifying power spread out, shattering the void and causing pitch-black cracks to appear. Kuo-fu was not the real Daluo Jinxian, so the 10 golden crows were no match for him. The mahogany staff smashed the primordial fire of the sun and hit the 10 golden crows. With a bang, the giant golden crows shattered and turned back into 10 golden crows. Hiss! This barbarian is so powerful. Brothers, set up the formation. In the sky, the 10 golden crows knew that their opponent was far more powerful than them. He was the most powerful enemy they had ever met. Without hesitation, they used their most powerful means. 10 Suns Burning Sky Formation. Start. With a roar, the 10 golden crows flapped their wings and formed an inexplicable formation in the sky. They attracted the power of the sun and enveloped Quafu. The 10 Suns Burning Sky Formation was a congenital formation created by Jun and Fushi for the 10 golden crows. Once the formation was activated, it could attract the power of the sun to burn the sky and boil the sea, destroying the world. Even if Xianxia fell into the formation, he would be in danger of being burned if he could not escape in time. However, Quafu was different. As a grand wizard and a descendant of Pangu, Xianxia was no match for him. You are courting death. You are the son of the celestial emperor, the elves of the sun, and born gods. Instead of benefiting the untainted land, you have killed hundreds of millions of creatures here. You deserve to die. Quafu shook his body and showed his true form of a grand wizard. Standing on the ground, his power was endless. No matter how fierce the primordial fire of the sun was, it could not hurt him at all. However, the 10 Suns Burning Sky Formation was really powerful. Although it could not hurt Quafu, it trapped him firmly in the formation. He could not break free and hurt the 10 golden crows. You have committed such a big crime. Everyone in the untainted land has the right to kill you. Your father's face has been completely disgraced by you. Trapped in the formation, Quafu used all his means but could not break free. He could not help but curse the 10 golden crows in the sky. Barbarian of the wizard tribe, you. At this moment, the 10 golden crows understood that they had made a huge mistake. Therefore, he was speechless in the face of Quafu's accusation. Brothers, kill him. Let's join forces to kill this barbarian of the shaman race before returning to the heavenly court to ask for Father's forgiveness. With Imperial Father's ability, he will definitely be able to solve this problem for us. Now that things had come to this, there was no point in regretting. Now, even if the 10 gold crows wanted to leave, Quafu would not agree. He would definitely kill them here to avenge the dead Wu tribesmen. Alright, let's kill him first. This shaman barbarian's words are so unpleasant to hear. Killing him will help us vent our anger. Having made up their minds, the 10 golden crows opened their mouths and spat out their innate origin, activating the 10 Suns Burning Sky Formation with all their might. This caused the formation's operation to speed up, causing it to undergo many changes. Boom, boom, boom. Inside the matrix, the primordial fire of the sun surged even more violently. The horrifying power spread out, igniting the void and turning it into a destructive storm, burning toward Quafu. In that instant, nothing existed anymore. Everything burned into nothingness. Haha, good timing. While laughing, Quafu stomped the ground hard. Instantly, the mountains and rivers within hundreds of millions of miles trembled together. Magnificent and heavy power gathered together, forming a yellow light curtain around Quafu, blocking the raging primordial fire of the sun. The 10 gold crows were not surprised that the primordial fire of the sun could not hurt Quafu. After all, he was Xianxia. It would be strange if they could kill him so easily. Kill. A golden mirror appeared in the middle of the formation, shining like the sun. Driven by the 10 golden crows, it shot out beams of divine light of the sun toward Quafu. This was the divine sun mirror, an ultimate primordial spiritual treasure bred by the sun star. It had always been kept by Jun. It was not until the 10 gold crows were born that he took it out and gave it to the 10 gold crows to protect themselves. Quafu was not afraid. He swung his peachwood staff and swept it forward. Tremendous power poured out, extinguishing the divine sunlight that was surging toward him. Then, Quafu stuck the peachwood staff into the ground. With a flash of green light, the peachwood staff grew in the wind. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a towering peach tree, supporting the whole matrix. Its roots danced and took root in the primordial fire of the sun, absorbing its power and weakening the matrix. Unfortunately, although Quafu's idea was good, the 10 Suns Burning Sky Matrix was supported by the Sun Star, and its power was endless. No matter how much power the peachwood staff absorbed, it could not shake its foundation. For a moment, the two sides were in a stalemate. Brother, this blockhead is so strong. His power is connected to the ley lines of the earth. Standing on the ground, he is invincible. If this continues, I'm afraid we'll be exhausted to death by him. Quafu was Xianxia, so he had the confidence to continue. But the 10 gold crows were not. When their power was exhausted, they would not be able to maintain the matrix. When the matrix was exhausted, their death would come. Therefore, seeing the situation in a stalemate, the gold crows could not help but panic. We can't go on like this. Since the barbarian is connected to the ground, let's drag him into the air. Let's see if he dies. Suddenly, the youngest gold crow suggested. That's a good idea. Little 10, you are so smart. When the other 9 gold crows heard that, they all thought that it was a good idea and praised the youngest gold crow. Then, they used their strength together to drive the 10 suns burning sky matrix. They swept up tens of thousands of feet of flames and flew up with Quafu, trying to drag him into the air. However, trapping Quafu was already the limit of the 10 suns burning sky matrix. It was impossible to lift him up. Moreover, the body of a wizard contained a large amount of connate turbid qi. It was extremely heavy and could not be moved easily. Therefore, the 10 gold crows used all their strength and their faces turned red, but they could not drag Quafu at all. Haha! You little birds want to pull me up? Ridiculous! Do you really think you are Di Jun Tai? You've completely disgraced your father and uncle. At this moment, Quafu also felt that something was wrong. His words were extremely sharp, and he was very different from his honest appearance before. Obviously, Quafu also fell into the trap. Compared to the demon race, it was easier to control the wizard race. At this moment, the 10 gold crows were about to go crazy. The true sun fire on their bodies whooshed out, and they wanted to swallow Quafu alive. How dare you, wizard race! Don't you dare hurt our prince! Seeing that it was almost time, Xuanti finally let Defeng find this place. Prince, don't worry. I'm coming. Seeing that the situation was critical, Defeng did not have time to chat. He hurriedly used his magic and blew a gust of wind toward Quafu in the matrix. Great Gale was an innate god born from the innate wind origin. In the Tao of Wind, Great Gale had extraordinary achievements. Chapter 265. The 10 golden crows could not move Quafu. The 9 heavens astral wind whizzed out and turned into a whirlwind. It wrapped Quafu up and lifted him into the air. Oh no! Quafu knew something was wrong when he saw himself leaving the ground. He quickly recalled his peachwood staff and swung it forward with all his strength. The Wu tribe had the best physical body in the primitive world. Naturally, their strength was also the best. Under Quafu's staff, the void shattered, the 5 elements were destroyed, and yin and yang ceased to exist. Earth, fire, water, and wind intertwined. The destructive aura surged and shattered the 9 heavens astral wind. However, how could the 10 golden crows let Quafu return to the ground when they finally lifted him up? Seizing the opportunity, the 10 golden crows activated the divine sun mirror and hit the ground. Without Quafu's suppression, how could the surrounding mountains and rivers resist the power of the golden crows? In an instant, tens of thousands of miles of mountains and rivers were turned into ashes. Without the support of the earth, Quafu's strength fell sharply. He could no longer resist the surging sun primordial fire. In just a moment, his body was burned black. He was in a sorry state. After all, he was Daluo Jingxian. How could he die so easily? The sun primordial fire only damaged Quafu's physical body. It could not hurt him at all. It was far from enough to kill him. Barbarian of the Wu tribe, how dare you be so arrogant? Seeing Quafu's sorry state, the 10 golden crows were very proud. They turned to Defeng and said, Defeng, stop this barbarian so that we can use our secret treasures to kill him. As the sons of the celestial emperor, the 10 golden crows were not short of treasures. However, they were obsessed with Kundi and did not think about it. Now that they had calmed down, they thought about their own treasures. Defeng took out a long green banner and waved it at Quafu. The long banner was called the innate wind banner. It was Defeng's spiritual treasure. It was an upper-grade innate treasure that could release innate divine wind. The innate divine wind whizzed out and turned into green chains, locking Quafu firmly. No matter how hard he struggled, he could not move. Your Highness, do it quickly. Quafu's strength is extraordinary. I can't hold on for long. After suppressing Quafu, Defeng hurriedly shouted to the 10 golden crows. They were both Daluo Jingxian. Without the help of the 10 sun-burning sky formation, it was hard to say who would be the one suppressing the other. Hey, go die! Sneering, the golden crow took out a silver needle and stabbed it toward Quafu. Above the silver needle, the connate Taiyin origin chi flowed. It released a shocking chill that seemed to be able to freeze the world. This was the Taiyin Ice Soul Needle, a supreme treasure created by Shiha using the essence of the Taiyin star. It contained the Tao of Taiyin and could freeze all things and kill all life. Such a treasure could only be refined once every 100 million years. It was a rare treasure in the primordial world that could kill Daluo Jinxian. In front of the Taiyin Ice Soul Divine Needles, the physical body that the sorcerer tribe was so proud of had completely lost its function. It was like a rag that was easily pierced through. In an instant, Quafu's expression froze. His body stiffened, and he was frozen into an ice sculpture. A terrifying connate chill spread out and wiped out all life in his body. Then, the connate chill spread up and wiped out Quafu's connate indestructible true spirit. Just like that, a grand sorcerer, a powerhouse who dominated the primordial world, silently died here. Your Highness, Quafu has been killed. The sorcerer tribe will not let this matter rest. We should leave as soon as possible to avoid any accidents. The land was the territory of the sorcerer tribe. If they killed the grand sorcerer here, when the sorcerer tribe experts arrived, they would not be able to escape. No one could save them. The heavenly court. They had to return to the heavenly court immediately. Only by returning to the heavenly court could they be considered safe. However, before they could do anything, a black arrow suddenly shot out from the void. It directly pierced through the 3 golden crows and killed them on the spot. Ah! Third brother. Who? This sudden scene left everyone dumbfounded. After a while, the golden crows finally reacted to what had happened and roared with their eyes wide open. On the other side, De Feng's face turned pale. The 3 golden crows were dead. The son of the celestial emperor was dead in front of him. This was a big deal. Hou Yi, you deserve to die. The golden crows could not recognize the origin of the black arrow, but De Feng, who had dealt with the sorcerer tribe for many years, could recognize the origin of this object. That arrow was the Xianming arrow. It was the personal treasure of the grand sorcerer, Hou Yi. The identity of the person was self-evident. He was one of the strongest sorcerer tribe, Hou Yi. Since the establishment of the demon tribe, Hou Yi's hands were stained with the blood of countless demon tribe members. Even several demon gods had died in his hands. He was the strongest among the Daluo. He was the top Daluo Jinxian below the sage-to-be. Hou Yi's name was enough to make countless demon tribe tremble in fear. Puff! Another black arrow appeared and pierced through the 4 golden crows, taking away their lives. This was Hou Yi's response to De Feng. So what if you are the son of the celestial emperor? How dare you kill the grand sorcerer of the sorcerer tribe? Ah! Bastard! De Feng felt like he was going crazy. In front of him, another son of the celestial emperor had died. What was Hou Yi doing? Was he forcing the demon tribe to wage a full-scale war against the sorcerer tribe? Now that things had come to this, De Feng knew that even if he returned to the heavenly court, Di Jun would not let him go. It was better to fight to the death and fight for a chance of survival for the little golden crows. He could ask for Di Jun's forgiveness and resurrect him in the future. Hou Yi, I'll fight you to the death. With a decision in his heart, De Feng burned everything he had in exchange for unparalleled power and charged toward Hou Yi. Hou Yi was a figure on the level of one of the 10 great demon gods. He was far from what De Feng could compare to. If he wanted to save someone from his hands, he could only fight with his life. Your Highness, return to the heavenly court quickly. His Majesty is there. He will definitely protect you. While charging toward Hou Yi, De Feng did not forget to remind him. However, before he could finish speaking, another 2 golden crows were shot to death by Hou Yi. Go! With a roar of grief and indignation, De Feng woke up the little golden crows who were in a daze. Go quickly. Run to the heavenly court. At this moment, the golden crows finally knew fear. The tragic deaths of their 4 brothers made them angry, but at the same time, they also felt a strong sense of fear. Since they were going to die, what about them? With a shudder, the golden crows hurriedly flapped their wings and flew quickly toward the heavenly court. Run quickly. Run to the heavenly court and let Father avenge them. At this moment, This was the only thought left in the Golden Crow's minds. Humph. You still want to escape? You must be dreaming. You killed the Grand Sorcerer of the Sorcerer tribe, destroyed the untainted land, and killed hundreds of millions of living beings. All of these sins can only be repaid with your lives. Seeing that the Golden Crows were about to escape, Hui said coldly. Chapter 266. The Xianming arrow was the most precious treasure of the Xianming tribe. It was made from the bones of the Xianming ancestral witch. There were only 10 arrows in the world. The Xianming ancestral witch was the rain ancestral witch, the winter god, and the north god. He was in charge of the ice and snow of the primitive world. Therefore, the Xianming arrow made from the bones of the Xianming clan was one of the best-earned treasures in the world. It was also the nemesis of the Golden Crows. Anyone who touched it would die. Hui was different from Quafu. He was a witch born from Panga's blood. He was the first witch. He was of noble birth and was far from ordinary connate god-fiends. Even an ordinary sage-to-be might not be his match, let alone Defeng, who was not even ranked in the demon race. Scram! After sending Defeng flying with a punch, Hui continued to draw his bow and shoot 3 arrows in the direction of the Golden Crow's escape. Swoosh! 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 Amidst whooshing sounds, 3 more Golden Crows were killed by Hui. Hui, the god of archery, never missed. Hui's arrows had surpassed the level of skill and reached the level of Dao. If he went one step further, he would be like Feng Zichen, who established the connate sword Dao. He could imprint the Dao of archery into the origin of heaven and earth, turning the acquired Dao into the connate Dao. Such an expert could easily kill the little Golden Crows. Not to mention, he was holding the nemesis of the Golden Crows, the Xianming arrow. Today, the 10 Golden Crows were doomed. No! 7 Golden Crows died tragically. Defeng had already expected his end. He could not help but despair. Hui, let's die together. After a while, seeing Hui aiming his bow at the remaining Golden Crows, Defeng gritted his teeth and rushed to Hui's side. He exploded. It's useless. Hui stood in the center of the explosion and did not move. He allowed the power of Defeng's explosion to hit his body. At this moment, the powerful physical body of the sorcerer tribe was fully displayed on his body. Grand Witch Quafu, I've avenged you. With that thought in mind, Hui loosened his grip on the bow. Suddenly, 3 black arrows shot out. Their targets were the remaining 3 Golden Crows. My son! In the numinous sky hall, Dijun suddenly screamed and vomited a mouthful of blood. Then, under the panicked gazes of the demons in the hall, he suddenly disappeared. The 10 Golden Crows had accidents one after another. The secrets of heaven that had been concealed by Zhuan Ti could no longer be hidden from Dijun's perception and were detected by him. That was why the current scene was happening. The Xianming arrow was extremely fast. A black light flashed by and the 2 Golden Crows died on the spot. Second brother. On the other side, the Golden Crow couldn't help but cry out sorrowfully when he saw that another of his 2 remaining younger brothers had been killed. At the same time, he also noticed that there was a black arrow coming from behind him and his 10th brother. Little brother, you have to survive. Imperial father, please take care of Imperial mother. After taking one last look at the sun star, the Golden Crow ignited its origin and drove the sun god mirror. It was like a small sun as it collided with a Xianming arrow that was shot towards the Golden Crows, blocking the fatal blow for him. You have to survive. With that last sentence, the Golden Crow completely disappeared from the world, leaving nothing behind. Big brother. This scene made the Golden Crow's eyes almost pop out of their sockets. He wanted to immediately turn back and fight Hui, but he couldn't. The Golden Crow used his life in exchange for a chance to escape. He couldn't let the Golden Crow's sacrifice be in vain. He had to survive and escape back to the heavenly court to avenge his brothers. Resisting the urge to turn back, the 10 Golden Crows used all their strength to activate the rainbow transformation technique and flew back to the heavenly court. He was afraid that once he turned back, he couldn't help but fight Hui to the death. This Golden Crow is quite decisive. However, he still has to die. Hui called back the Xianming arrow, drew the longbow, and shot an arrow. Let's see who can save you this time, Hui said as he put down the Hui bow. My life is over. Under this arrow, the 10 golden crows only felt that no matter where they were, they couldn't dodge this arrow. There was really no escape and no way to avoid it. The shadow of death uncontrollably crept into their hearts. And just as the Xianming arrow was about to hit the 10 golden crows, a golden figure suddenly appeared in front of the 10 golden crows and grabbed the Xianming arrow. At the critical moment, Jun finally arrived. In the end, the 10 golden crows weren't fated to die. With the protection of the Sun Star, even though the golden crows had killed so many people, they still had a chance to live. The 10 golden crows, 9 out of 10, just happened to meet their fate and meet the will of the heavens. My poor children. Looking at the 8 golden crow corpses on the ground, Jun seemed to be crying and laughing at the same time. He was clearly extremely sad. Wah! Father, Big Brother and the others are all dead. In order to save me, Big Brother even burned his origin and returned to the embrace of the Sun Star. Nothing is left of him. Father, you have to avenge Big Brother and the others. Seeing Jun, the 10 golden crows' fear was finally released. They couldn't help but cry out to Jun, "Don't cry. You are the crown prince of the demon race. How can you cry?" Looking at the remaining 10 golden crows, Jun said sternly. It was all because he spoiled the golden crows too much that today's disaster was caused. In Jun's heart, he really regretted it. Good, very good. Grand Magus of the wizard race, archer god of the primordial world, you are really very good. With a wave of his sleeve, Jun sent the 10 golden crows back to the heavenly court. He turned his head and said to Ho-yi. At the same time, he exerted a little strength in his hand and crushed the Xianming arrow into pieces. I don't deserve such praise from your majesty. I am just eliminating evil for the primordial world. Since Jun appeared, Ho-yi's body couldn't help but tense up. It was as if he had met the great Tao, and a great sense of fear arose in his heart. However, the pride of the wizard race didn't allow him to bow down to the enemy. Even if he died, he would die standing. Therefore he sneered at Jun. Your Majesty didn't teach your son well, so that the Emperor's son created chaos in the primordial world and killed hundreds of millions of creatures. I wonder how your Majesty is going to explain to the living beings in the primordial world? I killed a great evil in the primordial world and saved the people from the fire. I wonder how your Majesty is going to reward me? As the Lord of Heaven and Earth, Jun naturally had to be responsible for all living beings in the world. There was nothing wrong with Ho-yi asking him this question. Humph. You have a sharp tongue. With a cold smile, Jun didn't answer Ho-yi's question. Because Ho-yi was right. It was all the golden crows' fault. Killing the golden crows was not only not wrong, but also meritorious. If Jun hadn't come here and affected the operation of heaven and earth, merit would have fallen into Ho-yi's body at this moment as a reward. However, Ho-yi killed Jun's 9 sons. He couldn't wait to cut Ho-yi alive. How could he reward him? How can I forgive you for killing my 9 sons? Pay with your life for my poor son. Jun stretched out his hand and grabbed Ho-yi. Chapter 267. Just like when Ho-yi killed the 3-legged crow, the 3-legged crow had no power to fight back. Jun wanted to kill Ho-yi, and Ho-yi also had no power to fight back. Jun's hand was not big, only the size of an ordinary person, but in Ho-yi's eyes, it was extremely huge, as if it covered the sky and completely blocked his vision. In his eyes, there was nothing but Jun's palm. Fear, incomparable fear. At this moment, under the pressure of Jun, a strong fear rose in Ho-yi's heart. His future was dark, and all hope of life had been wiped out. He had already seen the end of his death. Under this palm, he would die without a doubt. Looking at the palm getting closer and closer, Ho-yi's heart was full of unwillingness. But no matter how hard he struggled, no matter how hard he tried, his body did not seem to belong to him. He could not move at all. He could only watch the palm press down and wait for the arrival of death. Hey! Jun, you've gone too far. Suddenly, the void in front of Ho-yi began to expand infinitely. In an instant, it was already an endless distance. At the same time, Ho-yi's body was also retreating rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he was out of the range of Jun's palm. Jiang, you want to protect him? Looking at the figure that suddenly appeared in front of him, Jun suppressed his anger and said coldly. The one who saved Hou-Yi was the leader of the witch tribe, ancestor Magus Di Jiang, Panga's eldest son, the master of space, and the top great medium in the untainted land. Only he, who was known as the fastest in the untainted land, could save Hou-Yi from Di Jun at the critical moment. In this way, the two most powerful people in the untainted land gathered here. The Lord of Heaven and the Lord of Earth. Di Jun, your son created chaos in the untainted land and was killed by Hou-Yi. It was completely his own fault. You can't blame others. You are unreasonable. You have to use this reason to kill the great magus of our tribe, Panga's descendant. Are you bullying the witch tribe? After saving Hou-Yi, Di Jiang breathed a sigh of relief and blamed Di Jun. He killed 9 of my sons. Looking at Di Jiang, Di Jun said with hatred. So what? They are just 9 feathered beasts. How can they compare to the nobility of Panga's descendants? When your son killed the grand magi of the sorcerer tribe, their deaths were already set in stone. No one can save them no matter where they go. It had been many years since the last grand sorcerer of the Wu tribe had died. Today, Quafu was dead. It was imaginable how angry Di Jiang was. You're courting death. As soon as he finished speaking, Di Jun took out the He Tu and Luo Shu, performed the Tao of the Khanate 9 palaces, and attacked Di Jiang. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Di Jiang grabbed at the void. Suddenly, the void completely disappeared. Even the great path no longer existed. Everything had lost its meaning. When space moved forward, time was born. Therefore, without time, space would at most stagnate. But without space, time lost its meaning. Space was the foundation of all existence. Without space, the untainted land would have no basis to exist. How would it be different from the chaos? As the master of space, Di Jiang's power could be imagined. It was just that the 12 ancestors of sorcerers were too famous, so his fame was overshadowed. As a result, he was not famous in the untainted land. He was far less famous than Di Jun and Tai. But this did not affect Di Jiang's power at all. Not to mention other things, Di Jiang's identity as the eldest son of Pangu was destined to be powerful. In an instant, everything lost its meaning. The He Tu and Luo Shu also lost their basis. They trembled in the air for a moment and returned to Di Jun's hands. Clang! Above the sky, a long bell rang, suppressing the universe and endless time and space. The Khanate 8 trigrams manifested and the 8 trigrams turned, deducing the principles of the universe. Tai and Fushi had arrived. Then, the demon saints and demon gods of the demon tribe descended one by one under the lead of Kuanping. On the other side, various laws manifested. The river of time flowed slowly, and the great path of the 5 elements descended. The 12 ancestors of sorcerers had arrived. Behind them were the grand sorcerers of the sorcerer tribe. At this moment, all the higher-ups of the sorcerer and demon tribes appeared here. The atmosphere was on the verge of exploding. It's going to pierce through the sky. Such a huge change had happened in the primordial world. Naturally, many great mystical abilities experts would notice it. At that moment, they hurriedly closed the mountain gate and ordered their disciples not to go out, for fear of being involved in the calamity and turning into ashes. The sorcerer and demon tribes were too strong. Once they fought, even the sage-to-be could not protect themselves. How could the powerful figures not be afraid? Big brother, let's fight. Tai silently came to Di Jun's side and said. There were no unnecessary words. One sentence had already represented his determination. Apart from Di Jun and Shi He, the Donghuang Tai was the most sad about the death of the Golden Crow. He had regarded the little Golden Crows as his successors. But they had died, in the hands of the sorcerer tribe. How could Tai bear it? New and old hatred surged in his heart. Tai's heart was filled with killing intent. He wanted to destroy the sorcerer tribe. Go back. At this moment, Di Jun calmed down and ordered everyone. What? Go back? Big brother, you. Tai, who was about to attack, was stunned when he heard Di Jun's words. I said go back. After that, ignoring the puzzled expressions of Tai and the others, Di Jun waved his sleeves and turned to leave, returning to the heavenly court. Di Jun left without looking back. No matter how unwilling Tai was, he could not continue to stay here. He could only glare at Hou-Yi and leave with Di Jun. Seeing this, The other demons looked at each other and left as well. The sorcerer tribe did not stop the demons from leaving, because there was no need. At the sage-to-be realm, unless there was absolute suppression, if one party wanted to run, the other party would definitely not be able to stop them. If the demons wanted to leave, the sorcerer tribe could not stop them. It was better to let them go, so that they would not be annoyed. Fellow Taoist, don't be angry. Fellow Taoist, you have no choice. If we really start an all-out war with the sorcerer tribe, with our strength, we may not be a match for them. Moreover, we are fighting the sorcerer tribe on land. We have no advantage at all. We are completely at a disadvantage, and our chances of winning are even lower. On the way, seeing that Tai was still angry, Fuxi stepped forward to persuade him. Fellow Taoist, I understand Big Brother's painstaking efforts. He is just angry. The heavenly court. Shaking his head, Tai was in an inexplicable mood. Since the establishment of the heavenly court, he had experienced too many things against his will. They were no longer the same as before. Fellow Taoist, don't worry. The sorcerer tribe will not be rampant for long. After so many years of hard work, the Zhouxing formation has been completed. 365 heavenly Zhouxing formation have also been gathered. We will definitely be able to activate the full power of the Zhouxing formation. In that case, the sorcerer tribe has nothing to fear. Clearly, Fuxi had great confidence in the Zhouxing formation. Chapter 268. The Zhouxing formation could be said to be Fuxi's life's work. He had poured everything he had into it. Among the demons, no one could compare to him in the study of the Zhouxing formation. This was because the Zhouxing formation was deduced by him and Di Jun through the combination of Zhouxing. However, in terms of the Tao of deduction, Di Jun could not compare to Fuxi. Therefore, the main body of the entire Zhouxing formation was created by Fuxi. Di Jun only played the role of filling in the gaps. Fuxi's ability to comprehend the connate 8 trigrams had something to do with this experience. Exploring the secrets of the Zhouxing formation had allowed him to gain too much. These were the principles of the great Tao that could be used for a lifetime. It was with these gains that Fuxi had accumulated far more than his peers. Only then could he understand the principles of the universe and comprehend the connate 8 trigrams. In Fuxi's heart, the Zhouxing formation was the #1 formation in the primordial world. Its power was endless. If it was fully operated, it could even defeat a saint. With this array, it was enough to be the foundation of the demon clan. What was the sorcerer clan to them? In the first battle between the witch race and the demons were defeated. It was not that the Zhouxing formation was not good enough, but that the demons were not good enough. In terms of the strength of the demons at that time, there were only dozens of Daluo Jinxian. They could not even gather the heavenly cycle star gods. How could they activate the Zhouxing formation? However, it was different now. After countless years of development, there were no less than 1,000 Grand Luo Demon Celestials of the demon race. 365 Heavenly Cycle Demon Celestials had gathered and could fully activate the massive Heavenly Cycle Stellar formation. The witch race was no longer a threat. Fellow Taoist, let's wait a few more days. When fellow Taoist Shiha comes out of seclusion and takes charge of the lunar star and completes the Zhouxing formation, it will be time for us to fight the witch race. Shiha's seclusion caused the Zhouxing formation to be incomplete. It was missing an important part, the lunar star. Therefore, Di Jun did not dare to rashly start a war with the witch race. That was why he returned to the heavenly court. The demons have gone too far. How dare you kill the great shaman of my shaman tribe? I will not let you off. In the Pangu Hall, the atmosphere was solemn. All the ancestral shamans looked furious and murderous. In particular, the ancestor of sorcerer Hutu, the mother of earth who was known for her mercy in the untainted land, no longer had a trace of warmth on her face. Her face was murderous, and her eyes were full of murderous intent. She could not wait to kill her way to the heavenly court. It was hard to imagine that the Lady of Earth, who was loved by the world, would have such a terrifying appearance. It was no wonder that Kwafu was the great shaman of the Hutu tribe and a junior that Hutu valued very much. Now he was killed by the demon tribe. How could Hutu not be angry? That's right. We didn't go and find trouble with the demon clan. We were already merciful. That demon clan actually dared to provoke our shaman clan. They really don't know what's good for them. Inform the clansmen to prepare for war from today onwards. 1,000 years later, we will set off for the heavenly court. I'd like to see if the demons will abandon their foundation and avoid the battle. Jianghu nodded and said. His words were full of the matter of the golden crow burning Quafu to death. He did not mention the matter of Hou-Yi shooting the golden crow at all. That's right. Seeing that Jianghu agreed, everyone said in unison. Then, everyone got up and walked out of the hall. They wanted to return to the tribe and prepare for war. By the way, how's the geomancy map of the Untainted Land going? The geomancy map of the Untainted Land was a major event related to the inheritance of the shaman clan. If it could be completed before the war of shamans and demons, it would definitely increase the strength of the shaman clan. In this way, the chances of winning would be much higher when attacking the heavenly court. The rest of the places are almost completed. Only the Western Land was affected by the war of immortals and demons in the ancient times. The spiritual veins were all broken, causing the land to be more unstable. It is very different from before. If we want to draw the geomancy map of the Western Land of the Untainted Land, we need to calculate the earth veins again. It will take a lot of time. I'm afraid it will be difficult to complete it in a short time. After thinking for a while, Huta said. After all, too much time had passed. The Untainted Land had been through several wars and had changed greatly. It was far more difficult to draw the geomancy map than imagined. Then forget it. Let's wait until the war is over. The war between the liches and demons was imminent. Now, there was no time to continue drawing the geomancy map of the Untainted Land. By the way, Hou-Yi killed Dijun's 9 sons. Dijun will definitely not tolerate him. During this time, let him stay in the Pangu Hall to cultivate in case he is ambushed by the demons. Suddenly, Jianghu said to ancestral witch Xianming. That's right. This was the right thing to do. Although the ancestral witch Xianming said it lightly, Dijun was not to be trifled with. The world is going to change. Looking at the sky, Fengzichen sighed. Although the liches and demons had left, the influence was not over. As if having a premonition that something big was going to happen, the sky darkened. The entire Untainted Land was filled with an oppressive aura, making people breathless. All tribes, return to the ancestral land quickly. No delay. Also, from today onwards, the ancestral land is sealed. No one can enter but no one can leave. Fengzichen waved his hand, and a purple light curtain appeared, enveloping the East Sea and preventing anyone from going out. Not only the human clan, but all over the Untainted Land, as long as there was a Daluo Jinxian in charge, similar things would happen. Everyone in the Untainted Land knew how powerful the liches and demons were. As long as they were not fools, they would understand that if the two clans fought, the consequences would be very serious. If they were not careful, they would be in danger of being exterminated. How could they not prepare early? Above the heavenly court, in the Lingxiao Hall. Kundi. You deserve to die. At this moment, how could Dijun not understand that his son had been schemed against by others? Otherwise, before the 10 golden crows were in trouble, he should have sensed it immediately, instead of after the accident. In the Untainted Land, only the 6 saints had the ability to hide from him. The 3 pure ones were arrogant and would not do such a dirty thing. Fuxi was one of the 3 emperors of the heavenly court, and Yuhua had no reason to attack. In that case, the only ones who met the conditions were Zhu and Ti. Coincidentally, the 2 of them had a grudge against Tai. They had every reason to do so. After destroying the Magi, I will definitely destroy the Western sect. Dijun clenched his fists and swore secretly. Now, although he was not a match for the saint could not do anything to him. Otherwise, he would not have attacked the 10 golden crows. When Dijun defeated the Magi and unified the primordial world, at that time, he would be the true lord of heaven and earth. He would gather supreme luck and become the 8th saint of the primordial world. Moreover, he would be the most powerful saint. He might not be weaker than the Tao ancestor. At that time, it would be easy to destroy the Western sect. As for the Western sect, it was the foundation of the saints who received the commission. Once destroyed, there would be no possibility of their great ambition being fulfilled. Under the backlash of the heavenly Tao, even if Zhu and Ti did not die, his outcome would definitely be extremely miserable. Perhaps they would lose their saint positions because of this. It was not a secret in the primordial world that Xianxia's saint position was unstable. All the great mystical abilities knew about it. After all, when they made their great wish, the great mystical abilities were all watching. With everyone's wisdom, they only needed to think for a moment to understand what a great ambition was all about. Wasn't it just borrowing merit from the heavenly Tao? However, how could it be so easy to borrow something from the heavenly Tao? From the moment they received the quintessential commission and became saints, the Western sect had become their most fatal weakness. As long as they destroyed the Western sect, Zhuan would most likely lose his saint position under the backlash of the heavenly Tao. That was the conclusion that Di Jun, Tai, Fuxi, and the others had come to in recent years after studying the saints. It had been so many years since Zi Shao preached the Tao. Everyone gradually figured out that the so-called saint might not be a realm, but a karmic position of heaven and earth. Chapter 269. According to the Tao ancestor, there were only 9 saints in the Eldritch world. This was obviously abnormal. If saints were a realm, how could there only be 9? Shouldn't every great path be able to achieve Tao? Moreover, after the Daluo Jingxian, there was the primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. This was a realm that could be compared to saints. Without the Hongmeng purple qi, anyone could reach this realm. None of those who could cultivate to become great divine arts were fools. With all these reasons added together, coupled with the title of Holy Birth, if they still could not guess the meaning of the Holy Birth, they would have lived in vain for so many years. Saint, this name already explained everything. It was not a realm, but a karmic position of heaven and earth, a karmic position that allowed one to entrust the heavenly way. After studying saint for so long, they did not find a way to become a saint. Instead, they found the weakness of Zhuan. What a pity! 1,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, in the Eldritch world, gongs and drums shook the sky. Countless sorcerers gathered and rushed toward Mount Buzhou under the lead of 1,000 great sorcerers. The heavenly court was there. 1,000 great sorcerers were 1,000 Daluo Jingxian. This showed how powerful the sorcerers were. Are they going to fight? The movement of the sorcerers attracted many people's attention. This was a battle that would determine the ownership of the Eldritch world. The winner would dominate the entire Eldritch world and become the main character of heaven and earth. This battle concerned every living being in the Eldritch world. Anyone with some ability would pay attention. Set up the array. While the sorcerers were rushing to Mount Buzhou, the heavenly court also moved. 3,000 demon gods walked out of the heavenly court and personally sat on the stars. They mobilized the primordial star system's origin to form the Zhouxing array. Among the 3,000 demon gods, there were 360 demon gods who were the most powerful. They held the heavenly cycle star banner and bathed in the heavenly cycle starlight, suppressing the Eldritch world's main star. They were the heavenly cycle demon gods who could correspond to Zhouxing. Together with the 5 demi-saints of the demon race, there were 365 demon gods. 3,000 demon gods were 3,000 Daluo Jingxian. The number of Daluo Jingxian of the demon race was 3 times that of the sorcerers. However, this was not surprising. How many people were there in the demon race? All sentient beings could be considered as demons. With so many clansmen occupying the stars in the heavenly cycle, how could the demons not have many perfected golden immortals? What about the sorcerers? As the descendants of Pangu, they were of noble birth. But this also brought the demons to the gods. This caused the number of sorcerer tribe members to be far less than the demon tribe members. It also caused the sorcerer tribe members to have fewer experts than the demon tribe members. Demon were to the demon race. Even if the demon clan had an overwhelming advantage in terms of numbers, it was still unknown who would win and who would lose. Kill! Under the lead of the Grand Shaman, the Shaman army charged into the heavenly court and engaged in a life-and-death battle with the demon army. Rumble! The heavens and earth were shaking. Zhouxing shone brightly. It was so bright that the entire Eldritch world was covered in white. Countless starlight fell and divided the space into countless parts, creating battlefields one after another. Daluo Jingxian and Daluo Jingxian were fighting. Tai Jingxian and Tai Jingxian were fighting. They did not interfere with each other and fought fiercely. Di Jun Dai. With a loud roar, the 12 grand sorcerers arrived. Without saying much, They charged towards Emperor Jun and the others. Humph, sorcerers, today is the day you die. Zhouxing formation rise. Looking at the 12 ancestors of sorcerers, Di Jun snorted and activated the Zhouxing formation. In an instant, Zhouxing was connected. Vast and endless power descended. It stirred up endless killing intent and surged toward the 12 ancestors of sorcerers. What? How can this be? Under this power, the 12 ancestors of sorcerers seemed to have fallen into a quagmire and could not break free. At the same time, their physical bodies were melting and being destroyed by the starlight. Although this process was very slow, it did exist. After tens of millions of years, the physical bodies of the ancestors of sorcerers would be completely destroyed. This was under the condition that no external force interfered. However, how could Di Jun and the rest not take action? Formation. Without hesitation, the 12 ancestors of sorcerers immediately performed a secret technique and formed the 12 divine beings formation. For a moment, the divine beings formation surged out and destroyed everything. Haha. Di Jiang, do you still think it's the same as before? Now, there are countless demon immortals in the demon clan. Their strength far exceeds that of the sorcerer tribe. The power of the Zhouxing formation is fully activated. The sorcerer tribe is doomed. Looking at the 12 ancestral sorcerers, Emperor Jun revealed a complacent expression. He too and Luo Shu flew out from his body and suppressed the Taiyang and Taiyin stars respectively. Endless Tao patterns were derived to strengthen the cosmic constellation array. Hey, is that so? Di Jun, do you really think that the 12 divine beings formation in front of you is its full power? Di Jiang chuckled and said mysteriously. What? Hearing this, Di Jun's expression suddenly changed and he had a bad premonition. The 12 divine beings formation that almost destroyed the demon clan in the past was not at its strongest state. How could this be? Ha ha. Di Jun, come and see. How deep is the foundation of the sorcerer tribe? Ignoring Di Jun's changing expression, the 12 ancestors of sorcerers shouted in unison. Real body of Pangu, gather. At this moment, it was as if the sound of Tao was roaring. It was vast and incomparable. The sound broke the seal of the Zhouxing formation and reverberated throughout the untainted land. Rumble. The entire untainted land was shaking. The great mediums and the saints were not surprised. How could this be? On Mount Kunlun, Mount Meru, and Mount Wanshou, the great mediums of untainted land stared at the trembling dojo, their eyelids twitching. This was something that had never happened before. In the past, no matter how fierce the untainted land was, the untainted divine mountains under their feet were always the same, firmly suppressing the surrounding earth veins. But now, they were shaking and stirring up endless wind and clouds. This was so unbelievable that it was like a myth. Wisps of inexplicable light emerged from all over the untainted land and flew towards the 12 ancestors of sorcerers. At the same time, in Pangu's hall, an indescribable heart suddenly disappeared. It broke through the Zhouxing formation and descended to the center of the 12 ancestors of sorcerers. This was Pangu's heart. It can't be? It can't be. How could the sorcerer tribe? Seeing this, the 3 pure ones' eyelids twitched wildly. They vaguely understood something and a bold idea came to their minds, causing them to exclaim in disbelief. They had completely lost the calmness that a saint should have. Hiss! It's incredible that the sorcerer tribe has such means. Chapter 270. The demon race is in danger. In the Purple Cloud Palace, Tao ancestor Hong Jun was also shocked. He did not expect the wizard race to have such a trump card. With his strength, he did not need to see the result. He only needed to see the process to understand everything and see the trump card of the wizard race. In the eyes of all the living beings in the primordial world, an incomparably sacred and majestic Tao shadow suddenly appeared in the primordial world. The primordial world shook even more violently. At this moment, the entire world was cheering and filled with joy. All the living beings in the primordial world could clearly feel it. The Khanate Tao descended, and the laws of heaven and earth continued to appear. The origin of heaven and earth also descended. Everything appeared. In the primordial world, all kinds of phenomena appeared, welcoming a certain supreme existence. The origin of that Tao shadow was self-evident. It was the creator of the primordial world, the existence closest to the eternal Great Tao in the world. The son of Great Tao, Pangu. The moment Pangu's true body appeared, the three Pure Ones' expressions suddenly changed on Kunlun Mountain. That was because their primordial spirits were trembling continuously, as if they were about to leave their bodies and return to Pangu's embrace to play the role of Pangu's primordial spirit again. Pangu's primordial spirit was the three Pure Ones, but the three Pure Ones were not Pangu's primordial spirit. The moment they developed intelligence, they were new individuals, which also meant that Pangu's primordial spirit had died. After hundreds of millions of years of bitter cultivation, they had obtained the realm of indestructibility. How could the three Pure Ones be willing to sacrifice themselves and recondense Pangu's primordial spirit in exchange for Pangu's return? At that moment, the three Pure Ones guarded their primordial spirits and mobilized all their strength to cut off their connection with Pangu's true body. I am me, the one and only. I am not anyone's incarnation. Moral sacred words, suppress. Steadying his beliefs, the Grand Pure One's body surged with the principles of morality and refined all the remaining Pangu's primordial spirit chi in his primordial spirit. At the same time, the primeval golden scripture appeared on the body of the heavenly lord of the primeval beginning. It narrated the truth of the great Tao and washed away the chi of Pangu's primeval spirit in his primordial spirit. And on the Grand Master of Heaven's body, the numinous treasure Tao scripture appeared, deducing all kinds of things in the world and refining the power of Pangu's primordial spirit in his primordial spirit. The Tao of Virtue, the golden scripture of the primordial spirit, and the numinous treasure Tao Sutra were not the innate clear spirit Tao bestowed upon the three Pure Ones by the heavenly Tao, nor were they the three Taos of Shi, Yuan, and Xian that Pangu inherited. Instead, it was the Tao that the three Pure Ones had comprehended themselves. It was the manifestation of all their Tao comprehensions, and it represented their highest achievement. It possessed boundless power. This was a Dharma that was free from Pangu's influence. It was a Dharma that belonged to the three Pure Ones. Only this Dharma could help them cut off their connection with Pangu. As the connection between the three Pure Ones and Pangu was severed, the heaven-opening mark on their bodies, as well as the heaven-opening providence, dissipated quite a bit. There were gains and losses. They had lost a part of Pangu's legacy in exchange for complete freedom. Only the three Pure Ones knew whether it was good or bad. This was the difference between the three Pure Ones and the 12 ancestors of sorcery. Although they also respected and admired Pangu, it was impossible for them to exchange their lives for Pangu's life. The three Pure Ones lived for themselves. However, the 12 ancestors of sorcery were different. Pangu was their belief. The sorcerer tribe's worship of Pangu was unparalleled in the untainted land. For Pangu, they could give up everything. If they could revive Pangu by giving up their lives, they would not hesitate at all. The sorcerer tribe lived for themselves and also for Pangu. It was for this reason that the 12 ancestors of sorcery could obtain Pangu's hall and comprehend the 12 divine beings killing formation from it. They could summon Pangu's real body. The three Pure Ones did not have the sorcerer tribe's heart. Therefore, even if the three of them combined their primordial spirits, they could not summon Pangu's primordial spirit. That was because Pangu did not give them the right to do so. Looking at the majestic real body of Pangu in front of them, the demon clan could not help but swallow their saliva. They were so shocked that they could not speak. This was the creation god of the untainted land, the most powerful existence in the world. How could they fight this battle? A chill rose from their backs, making the demon clan feel cold from head to toe. A strong sense of despair emerged in their hearts, and they felt that they had lost all hope in the future. I am the celestial emperor, the master of all living beings in the world. So what if it's Pangu? I created the demon clan, established the heavenly court, maintained the order of the world, and found a chance for the innate living beings to transcend. I am limitless. Even if Pangu comes in person, I want to fight him. Right now, he is just a fake body formed by the ancestral sorcerer. What do I have to fear? Kill. After all, he was the overlord of the world. After a moment of absent-mindedness, Jun recovered and strengthened his beliefs. He was fearless and looked straight at Pangu's real body. Just as Jun said, the greatest contribution of the establishment of the heavenly court was not to maintain the order of the world, but to find a chance for the innate living beings to transcend. The demon clan was a connate living being. No matter how many connate god fiends there were, they could not be endless. Of course, Not all of the 3,000 demon gods of the demon clan were connate god fiends. Many of them were connate living beings. One had to know that the untainted land was the world of the connate god fiends. Under their control, how difficult was it for the connate living beings to attain the Tao? Before Jun established the heavenly court, no connate living being had attained the Tao. Daluo Jingxian had transcended. It was Jun. He was the one who created the demon clan, established the heavenly court, and gathered supreme providence. It was as if he had split the world apart. He had snatched the opportunity to attain the Tao from the hands of the connate god fiends. It was because of this feat that the connate living beings swore to be loyal to Jun. Only then could he sit firmly on the position of Celestial Emperor. Otherwise, did he really think that the position of Celestial Emperor was something that anyone could sit on? In the connate era, obtaining the recognition of the connate living beings had great merit and great providence. Only then could one condense the position of Celestial Emperor. I have long heard of the strength of the great Taoist priests. He is the best in the world and no one can compete with him. Today, Tai will have a good fight with him. If he wins, let the world know that the East Emperor is worthy of the title of number 1 in the primordial world. Let the demon clan know that they still have an emperor who can save their lives, and let those who have different thoughts give up. Use a bloody battle to completely determine the situation of the primordial world. If I lose, I will have no regrets dying in the hands of the great Taoist priests. At this moment, Tai's fighting spirit was completely stimulated. It was unprecedentedly high. He wanted to compete with Panga's true body. Since the establishment of the demon clan, we have become the overlords of the world from nothing. Who knows how many calamities we have experienced and how many difficulties we have overcome? How can we fall here? Men of the demon clan, kill. Kill to your heart's content. Kill to the heart's content and show the power of the demon clan. We can't let the living beings of the primordial world look down on the demon clan. At this moment, Fushi's appearance had completely changed. His aura was incomparably fierce, and the scene of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood was reflected behind him. There was no longer a trace of his previous gentle and amiable appearance. Chapter 271. Fushi, Emperor Shi of the demon race. The most intelligent person in the primordial world was also a top-notch great mystical ability below the saint. There was no doubt about his strength. Kill! Victory to the demons! The 3 demon emperors shouted from the bottom of their hearts and reawakened the fighting spirit of the demons. They overcame the fear in their hearts and clenched their weapons tightly as they charged towards the Magi. Ridiculous! The demons have gone against the flow and lost their Tao in the world. Today, the Magi are under the orders of Father God to destroy them. The demons should be destroyed. Panga's true body looked at the 3 of them and smiled disdainfully. He reached out and shouted, "Axe, come!" As soon as he finished speaking, the Taiji painting, Panga's banner, and the chaos bell in the hands of the Grand Pure One, the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning, and the East Emperor Tai almost at the same time. Suddenly, they trembled and almost flew out of their hands towards Panga's true body to form the Panga's axe again. Oh no! The 3 treasures were the foundation of the 3 of them. They could not lose them. Immediately, the 3 of them used their methods to suppress the 3 treasures. After all, they were treasures that were connected to their lives. In addition, Panga's axe was already in the past. The 3 of them did not spend much effort to suppress the 3 treasures. On the other hand, the East Emperor Tai could not use the East Emperor Bell when facing Panga's true body to prevent accidents. Humph! Seeing that he could not summon Panga's axe, Panga's true body snorted coldly. He formed a seal with one hand and sent out a bolt of divine lightning towards the 3 of them. That lightning was the Du Tian divine lightning. It could split the world apart and was all-encompassing. It was the opportunity of creation, the source of destruction, and the source of all lightning techniques. It was the strongest lightning technique in the primordial world. Rumble! Wherever the Du Tian divine lightning passed, everything changed. The laws were changing, and the world was being re-established. A mysterious world slowly spread out. It was magnificent and magnificent, enveloping Jun and the other 2. In this world, Jun and the other 2 felt that their connate origins were constantly flowing away, becoming nutrients for this world to grow. What mystical ability is this? So powerful! Unimaginably strong! This supernatural power ignored any defense and directly attacked the innate source. In the untainted land, it was simply unheard of and unimaginable to the extreme. The innate source was the foundation of everything. If the innate source was gone, it meant death. Furthermore, without the innate source energy, even if he did not lose his cultivation after his resurrection, his strength would plummet, and it would be difficult for him to recover to his peak state. Just like Tung Wang Kung, although he was still the Daluo Jingxian after his resurrection, he was getting worse and worse. Kill! Knowing the consequences of losing their innate origin source, Di Jun and the other two did not dare to hesitate. They immediately unleashed all of their strength and executed their strongest divine abilities to shatter the world in front of them. Boom! Under the full power of the three of them, the Dutian world suddenly shattered and turned into a huge tide of destruction that continued to sweep towards them. Zhouxing Formation Kill! Boundless starlight descended and transformed into a boundless river of stars. It was vast and mighty, and it annihilated the tide of destruction as it charged towards Pangu's true body. Insignificant! Pangu's true body grabbed at the void, and a vast light appeared and gathered into the shadow of a giant axe in his hand. He swung it down fiercely at the Zhouxing Formation. In an instant, the world lost its meaning, and only a ray of light was left. It was incomparably dazzling and white, and nothing could be seen. Crack! After an unknown period of time, a loud shattering sound suddenly came from the world, breaking the long silence. Looking in the direction of the sound, a huge crack appeared in the starry sky. The Zhouxing Formation that the demon race had placed high hopes on was split open by Pangu's true body with a single swing of his axe. Break! Without giving the demon race time to react, Pangu's true body swung his giant axe and swung it down again, destroying all the formation patterns in the sky. Without the connection of the formation patterns, the Zhouxing Formation could no longer be maintained and broke apart. Instantly, the heavenly cycle star streamers shattered one after another, and the demon god spat out blood. Even the Zhouxing Formation dimmed significantly. The Zhouxing Formation was extremely powerful, and its backlash was equally shocking. Fortunately, the demon gods were all at Daluo Jingxian's level of cultivation, so they did not die on the spot and were only injured. Otherwise, they would have been reduced to dust on the spot. Hiss! Pangu's true body is actually so powerful? Although they knew that Pangu's true body was definitely powerful, they did not expect him to break the Zhouxing Formation that the demon race was so proud of with just 2 swings of his axe. Even a sage did not have such power, right? The witch race was so powerful that the demon race could not even retaliate. If nothing unexpected happened, the outcome of this battle was already set. The demon race was about to become history. However, the great masters had thought too much about this. The power of Pangu's true body was so powerful because it was his first time appearing in the world. He had gathered the remnant power of Pangu in the primordial world, which led to his power surpassing that of a sage. However, this power was, after all, an external force. It wouldn't be long before it dissipated. If these great masters carefully observed Pangu's true body, they would realize that his power was constantly weakening. No matter how strong Pangu's true body was, it was not the real Pangu's physical body. It was only forcibly condensed by the 12 ancestral sorcerers with the help of the formation. Due to the influence of the 12 ancestral sorcerers, Pangu's true body could only unleash the power of a great perfection primordial chaos Tao realm cultivator. If he wanted to be stronger, the 12 ancestral sorcerers would have to continue increasing their power. The Zhouxing Formation was broken, and the impact was far greater than imagined. The entire starry sky was trembling, and pieces of debris fell from the stars, turning into meteorites that smashed onto the primordial world. It was unknown how many innocent creatures were harmed and how many people were killed. For a time, the primordial world was full of wails and devastation. What's that? On the Z-Way star, Feng Zichen had been staring at the Zhouxing Formation ever since the demon race activated it. He tried to remember all the changes of the Zhouxing Formation so that he could improve his galaxy cosmic light formation. Therefore, when the Zhouxing Formation was broken and the starry sky was unbalanced, Feng Zichen discovered a different aura from the deepest part of the starry sky. Curious, Feng Zichen took the opportunity when Di Jun's attention was completely attracted by the sorcerer tribe to release his divine thought. He followed the different aura and explored the depths of the starry sky. This is the embryo of a primordial treasure. There is a primordial treasure in the depths of the starry sky. Why have I never heard of it? In the depths of the starry sky, Feng Zichen discovered a Taoist embryo surrounded by endless starlight. In the Taoist embryo, he could clearly see a Taoist diagram depicting Zhouxing. It was the primordial treasure. Zhouxing diagram. It was the carrier of the Tao of Stars, branded with the mark of Zhouxing, recording the trajectory of Zhouxing. It had all kinds of incredible power and infinite power. Chapter 272. The reason why the Zhouxing formation was not a match for the 12 divine beings killing formation was that it lacked the Zhouxing map as the main array. Although the He Tu and the Luo Shu were extraordinary and hid the secrets of the Khanate 9 palaces, they were supreme treasures of the primordial world and recorded the flow of the primordial world's water veins. They were not compatible with Zhouxing. Di Jun used the He Tu and the Luo Shu to preside over Zhouxing. How could he activate its full power? It was not surprising that the incomplete Zhouxing formation was destroyed when it fought against the complete Du Tian divine beings killing formation. That's right. Zhouxing is so important. It's normal for it to nurture a Khanate cardinal treasure. It's a big problem if it can't be nurtured. Zhouxing was the most important part of the primordial world. Only when the three lights were separated could there be the boundless space of the primordial world. Moreover, they corresponded to the Earth Spirit Cave one by one, releasing endless star essence and nurturing the countless living beings of the primordial world. It would not make sense if there was not a Khanate cardinal treasure suppressing such an important place. Tai was born with the Bell of Chaos, so the world thought that the Bell of Chaos was the supreme treasure that suppressed the boundless void. Little did they know that the Khanate cardinal treasure that truly suppressed Zhouxing had yet to be born and was still in the process of being nurtured. It was the supreme treasure in front of Feng Zichen, the Zhouxing map. It seems that this Khanate cardinal treasure was most likely not successfully nurtured. Otherwise, it's impossible that I haven't heard of it. Feng Zichen came from the future. Although he had never seen any treasures, he had heard of many of them. He had even heard of most of the famous Khanate spirit treasures in the primordial world, let alone the rarer Khanate cardinal treasure. If such a cardinal treasure really existed in the future, it was impossible for him to not have heard of it. From this, it could be deduced that such a Khanate cardinal treasure did not exist in the future. With that thought in mind, Feng Zichen grabbed a wisp of the Zhouxing map's aura and combined it with his memories from the future to use the Khanate 8 trigrams to deduce. The deduction method of the Khanate 8 trigrams was different from the deduction method that was passed down in the primordial world. It did not calculate through the heavenly Tao. Instead, he used the innate 8 phases to evolve the greater thousand universes and operate the laws of heaven and earth. He traversed through countless years and saw a trace of a secret from the mysterious and unknown future. I see. After a while, Feng Zichen finished his deduction and found out everything. In the near future, the great war between liches and demons would erupt. That battle was so terrifying that it was beyond imagination. The entire wilderness was shattered. Zhouxing, who was at the center of the battlefield, was not spared. The starry sky was shattered, and the heavenly cycle was in tatters. His source fell greatly. Countless small planets were completely shattered into pieces. As a result, Zhouxing was too busy to take care of himself. How could he spare the energy to create the Zhouxing map? Under the interference of the heavenly Tao, the innate origin of the Zhouxing diagram flowed backward and returned to the Zhouxing to repair the Zhouxing so that they would not collapse. At this point, the Zhouxing map, a Khanate cardinal treasure, had died before it was even born. It had completely dissipated in the primordial world. However, since I'm here, how can I allow this to happen? The Zhouxing map, a Khanate cardinal treasure, is mine. A Khanate cardinal treasure that truly belonged to the Tao of Stars and could unify the Zhouxing map was extremely precious. Of course, Feng Zichen was not willing to give it up. It seems that I have to make a good plan. After taking one last look at the Zhouxing map, Feng Zichen slowly retracted his gaze. Di Jun, today is the day you die. Kill. Panga's real body raised the giant axe and swung it at Di Jun and the other two. The axe was ordinary. There were no innate runes or aura of the great Tao. There was only unparalleled power. Power that was beyond imagination. Under the axe, it seemed to be able to sever the great Tao, destroy all spells, and reopen the world. No matter how hard Di Jun and the other two tried, they were only able to resist for a breath before they were sent flying and vomiting blood. Haha! Victory to the witch tribe. With a loud laugh, Panga's real body chased after them. He took a big step forward and came in front of Jun and the other two. He raised the Pangu map in his hand and was about to kill the three of them. I am the Celestial Emperor. Who can kill me? The heavenly realm is of the same origin. Add to me. Looking at the Pangu map that was chopping at him, Jun's face was filled with madness. He suddenly formed a seal and attracted the origin of heaven and earth to add to his body. Rumble. Suddenly, a terrifying aura rose from Jun's body, shocking the entire primordial world. At this moment, his strength rose to a brand new level, the primordial chaos Tao realm. It was the realm that many powerful people in the primordial world dreamed of, the primordial chaos Tao Jiangxian. The heavenly realm was a world that was countless times more powerful than the great Kiliacosm. Its origin was so powerful that other than the origin of Earth, nothing in the primordial world could compare to it. Therefore, no one in the primordial world found it strange that Jun had entered the primordial chaos Tao realm. If they didn't know that Jun had this trump card, how could the sages tolerate Jun suppressing them? Kill. Holding the sun god's sword, Jun suddenly swung it and slashed out a dazzling sword light. It was vast and boundless, illuminating the primordial world. Heaven and earth were completely white and lost their color. There was no doubt that this was the power of the sword Tao. Not long after the Khanate sword Tao was established, the Grand Master of Heaven, Jun, Mingi, and the others had successively attained the Khanate sword Tao, causing the power of the Khanate sword Tao to multiply. You overestimate yourself. Pangu, the pinnacle of strength. Even though the true body of Pangu that the ancestral witch had transformed into was far inferior to the real Pangu, its strength was also the limit of its realm. It was almost invincible in the same realm. Clang! With a gentle swing of the giant axe, a vast axe light poured out, shattering everything. It easily wiped out the sword light that was enough to kill a quasi-saint. Then, the axe light did not weaken and slash toward Jun. Seeing this, Jun hurriedly raised his sword to block. Crack! After a crisp sound, the Khanate divine sword that had followed him for countless years shattered into countless pieces and scattered into the primordial world, never to be seen again. At the same time, the axe light also dissipated. Sunstar come. At this time, Tai also made a series of hand seals and absorbed the origin of the Sunstar into his body. Needless to say, the Sunstar's importance was self-evident. It was not difficult to create a primordial chaos Dalyo Jinxian with all its origin on a person. Kill. Behind Tai, a huge wheel slowly appeared and crashed toward Pangu's true body. This was the Tai wheel, the great wheel of the heavenly Tao. It was Tai's strongest technique and also his supreme achievement. Tai was the Tao. The Tai wheel, the wheel of Tao, was an incomparably perfect ring that represented no beginning and no end. Its body was covered with Khanate runes, symbolizing the endless rules of the primordial world. As the Tai wheel moved, these Khanate runes shone, triggering the power of the heavenly Tao, the rules of heaven and earth, and all the power of the primordial world. Chapter 273. This time, Panga's true body blocked the Tai wheel, but it was not as easy as before. Humph! Although the Pangu true body managed to shatter the greater one wheel, he was pushed back by the huge force and could not help but let out a muffled groan. It was not that Tai Yi's attack was stronger than Jun's. It was that after such a long time, Panga's remaining strength had dissipated a lot, causing the strength of Panga's true body to fall back to the primordial chaos Tao realm. His strength has fallen a lot. Everyone present was smart. How could they not sense such an obvious change? Chance. The strength of Panga's true body is constantly weakening. As long as we continue to delay, we will have a chance to turn the tables. After thinking for a while, the three of them understood the reason. They immediately changed their strategy and stopped fighting Panga's true body head-on. Instead, they used delaying tactics. They intended to delay until the strength of Panga's true body declined to the extreme and achieve a desperate comeback. Unfortunately, Jun's plan was wrong. Although the strength of Panga's true body was falling, what fell was the remaining strength of Pangu. His essence was still at the perfected primordial chaos Tao realm. In other words, when he reached the perfected primordial chaos Dalyo Jinxian realm, the strength of Panga's true body would fall to the bottom and would not change at all. Just like that, Jun and the other two gave up fighting Panga's true body. Instead, they fought with him and gradually stalled for time. Thump, thump, thump. Suddenly, a violent heartbeat sounded in Panga's true body. It beat according to some inexplicable Tao rhythm. It was incomparably grand, shaking the entire primordial world and resonating with all Daos. This was Panga's heart beating. It was not relying on the 12 divine wraith formation to condense Panga's true body and heart, but the true heart of Pangu. It belonged to the son of the great Tao, the father of the primordial world, Panga's heart. This was the true number one treasure of the primordial world. Dang! Every time Panga's heart beat, it provided great power to Panga's true body. Clenching Panga's axe tightly, Panga's true body slashed at Dijun and the other two with all his might. Boom! 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 After 3 consecutive explosions, Dijun, Tai, and Fushi were blown apart by Panga's real body. However, the 3 of them were the top great mediums in the untainted land. How could they die so easily? In the blink of an eye, the 3 of them reunited in the distance and reappeared in the world. Cough cough. Although the 3 of them were still alive after suffering such heavy injuries, the power that had been added to their bodies had left their bodies, and they had fallen back to the quasi-saint realm. Kill. Panga's true body didn't say much as he was afraid of another mishap. He raised the giant axe in his hand and was about to deal the final blow to the 3 of them. It's about time. In the Purple Cloud Palace, Tao ancestor Hong Jun calculated and felt that Panga's remaining power had been exhausted by the ancestral magi and could no longer pose a threat to him. With a flash, he rushed toward the heavenly court. Stop! At the critical moment, Tao ancestor Hong Jun suddenly appeared and blocked the giant axe that was slashing at Dijun and the other 2, saving them. Hey! Tao ancestor Hong Jun, what do you mean by this? Panga's true body couldn't help but be angry when he was suddenly stopped and asked Tao ancestor Hong Jun. The demon clan maintains the order of the world. They have contributed to the untainted land and should not be destroyed. After sizing up Panga's true body for a while, Tao ancestor Hong Jun said coldly. Hong Jun, you. Pointing at Tao ancestor Hong Jun, Panga's true body was so angry that he couldn't speak. I've long heard that Tao ancestor Hong Jun has merged with the Tao with his body. He is fair and righteous and will not easily interfere in the matters of the untainted land. Today, I see that rumors are just rumors. They can't be trusted. After a while, Panga's true body said with a mocking expression. But then his face suddenly darkened and he shouted coldly at Hong Jun. Today, the Witch Clan is under the orders of Father God to send troops to suppress the Demon Clan and stabilize the untainted land. Whoever dares to stop us will be the enemy of the Witch Clan. Hong Jun, let me ask you, are you going to make way or not? At the end of his sentence, Panga's true body was filled with killing intent. The heavenly divine baleful chi surged out and swept through the surroundings. The poor Wei said that the Demon Clan has contributed greatly to the untainted land and should not be destroyed. Shaking his head, Tao ancestor Hong Jun's tone did not change at all, as if he did not care about the threat of the Witch Clan at all. What a biased old man. Take my axe. Seeing that Tao ancestor Hong Jun's attitude was so firm, Panga's true body was furious. He raised his axe and slashed it. Go back. Tao ancestor Hong Jun waved his sleeve and a terrifying power erupted, knocking Panga's true body down from the heaven realm and onto the untainted land. You! After stabilizing himself, Panga's true body was about to point at Tao ancestor Hong Jun and curse when he saw a purple light flash. Panga's true body suddenly disappeared and the 12 ancestral witches appeared one after another. How could it be? This time the ancestral witches were well behaved. Looking at Tao ancestor Hong Jun in the sky, they did not dare to say anything even though they were furious. This, masters, teachers, strength is actually this strong? In the distance, the saints and many powerful people who saw this scene could not help but exclaim. Such a powerful true body of Pangu was actually defeated by Tao ancestor Hong Jun in one move. His strength was becoming more and more unfathomable. Greetings, master. At this moment, Dijun and the other 2 walked forward and bowed to Tao ancestor Hong Jun. Get up. Nodding, Tao ancestor Hong Jun gestured to the 3 of them. From now on, the Demon Clan will rule the heavens and the Witch Clan will rule the earth. Within 100,000 years, there will be no more disputes. Looking at the Demon Clan and then the Witch Clan, Tao ancestor Hong Jun said, Yes, I will follow Master's orders. Jun and the other two hurriedly said in unison. This was obviously a good thing for the demon clan. They had no reason to refuse. Got it. Boys, let's go. We'll spare the demon clan this time. With Dao ancestor Hong Jun around, the 12 ancestral witches knew that they could not take advantage of him. With a wave of their hands, they recalled the witch clan army and left. All of you, take care of yourselves. After taking one last look at Jun and the other two, Dao ancestor Hong Jun also left. Hiss. This Panga's true body is so hard. As soon as he returned to the Purple Cloud Palace, Dao ancestor Hong Jun's expression changed. He could not help but frown and shake his arms repeatedly. He was no longer as indifferent as before. When Dao ancestor Hong Jun dealt with Panga's true body, it was easy for him to disperse Panga's true body and break the 12 capital Heaven Divine Wraith formation with a casual strike. However, that strike contained not only his power, but also the power of the heavenly Dao. That was why he was able to defeat Panga's true body in a single strike. Even so, Dao ancestor Hong Jun's arm, which was casting the spell, was still trembling from the huge recoil. If not for the fact that he had to take into account his image, he would have cried out on the spot. Fortunately, he held it in. Now that he had returned to the Purple Cloud Palace and there was no one else around, Dao ancestor Hong Jun could cry out without caring about his image and not worry about being discovered by outsiders. Chapter 274. But fortunately, his painstaking efforts were not in vain. That move had completely shocked everyone in the untainted land. Presumably after this time, the image of Hong Jun Taoist would become higher and more unfathomable in the eyes of the great mediums. No one would dare to disobey his orders. The demon clan, the wizard clan. How troublesome! Thinking of the wizard clan and the demon clan, even with Hong Jun Taoist's cultivation, he could not help but have a headache. Alas, these sages. Can't you just calm down and focus on your cultivation? Why do they have to get involved in these secular affairs and make the untainted land a mess? With Hong Jun Taoist's cultivation, Zhuan Ti thought that he had done it secretly and no one could find out. But how could he hide from Hong Jun Taoist's eyes? Taoist Hong Jun was naturally well aware of the reason for that. Brother, Hong Jun Taoist has gone too far. He is so partial to the demon clan and humiliated the wizard clan. He is really a Tao ancestor. I used to think that he was a good person. In the Pangu Hall, a group of ancestral sorcerers were cursing. A good person? How can Hong be a good person if he can live to this day? In the untainted land there are good people. It's just that the real good people are all dead and have been slandered. Anyway, the dead can't speak and won't stand up to refute. Isn't it just slander by the living? Hearing everyone's words, Jianghu sneered and said, Hong Jun Taoist has experienced many schemes to live to this day. If you think about it a little, you will know that he can't be a good person. Another name for a good person is a fool. Is Hong Jun a fool? Wasn't it? Doing good things in the untainted land was called smart. Being a good person in the untainted land was not a fool. There were so many bad people in the untainted land. Originally, everyone was the same and could not see any problems. But suddenly, a good person appeared. With this comparison, everything was out. If those bad people did not plot against this good person, how could they live up to their identity as bad people? Isn't Hong Yun a good person? But look, after he died, who else wanted to avenge him except Zhan Yuanzi? Those who were helped by him in the past didn't even show their faces. They all pretended to be deaf and dumb. He pretended not to see something that alarmed the entire primordial world. Do you see that? This is what happens to good people. Let's wait a little longer. It won't be long before bad words about Hong Yun spread in the untainted land. His reputation will be completely ruined. Otherwise, those connate divine demons who are helped by Hong Yun won't have the face to stay in the untainted land. Jianghu had a thorough understanding of the innate god fiends' personalities. Good people had no chance of survival in the Great Desolate. Alright, I've said so much, but I just want to tell you. In the untainted land, you can do good deeds, but you can't be a good person. Speaking of this, Jianghu suddenly looked at Hutu and said to her sternly, Especially you. The Lady of Earth's benevolence is already spreading in the primordial world. Big brother, I hope you can grasp the scale well and distinguish the boundary between good and bad. The red cloud mirror is right in front of us. Don't repeat his mistakes. Jianghu was very helpless about his sister. Perhaps because of the influence of the earth, Huda's personality was completely different from other ancestral sorcerers. There was no tyrannical aura at all. Instead, she was full of holy and auspicious aura. She was not like the sorcerer tribe at all. No, perhaps, her appearance was the real appearance of the sorcerer tribe. Hutu was born with a benevolent heart. She was full of pity for all living beings in the untainted land. She had been doing things of merit in the untainted land and was loved and respected by all living beings in the untainted land. This was nothing. However, after Hongyun died, Jianghu could not help but worry. If Hutu continued like this, it was hard to guarantee that she would not be used by outsiders and follow in Hongyun's footsteps. That was why the scene before his eyes had occurred. Big brother, don't worry. Hutu knows what to do. Hutu nodded and replied. It's good that you know what to do. Then I won't say anything more. However, the matter of the untainted land needs to be completed as soon as possible. Hongjuan's strength is unfathomable. It's far from what we can compete with. With him protecting the demon clan, it seems that our plan to destroy the demon clan won't work. Now, the only way is to find a way to increase the foundation of the sorcerer tribe and improve the strength of our tribe. After 100,000 years, we will destroy the demon clan in one fell swoop. At that time, even Hongjun won't be able to say anything. During this period of time, I'll have to trouble you to work harder and strive to draw the untainted land map as soon as possible. Jianghu stood up and said, For the sorcerer tribe, we will do our best. The ancestral sorcerers stood up and replied. Then they turned and left the Pango Hall. After this battle, the untainted land will never be peaceful again. On the coast of the East Sea, Feng Zichen looked at the sky that was gradually recovering and could not help but sigh. After the Second World War, the untainted land would usher in a series of changes. Every event had a far-reaching impact. It was enough to change the infinite future and produce countless variables. Hutu turned into reincarnation, the three pure ones separated, Chang'e flew to the moon. These unimaginable events would follow one after another. After these events, the human clan would also usher in the most terrifying and dangerous calamity since its birth. The demon clan slaughtered humans. It's time to make preparations. Sighing, Feng Zichen turned and returned to the human clan's ancestral temple to continue refining the human Dao imperial court. This was the inheritance treasure of the human clan. It was enough to establish a foundation for the human clan. He could not be careless. However, there was no hurry. Although Dao ancestor Hongjun had only stipulated that the sorcerer and demon clan could not fight for 100,000 years, the sorcerer and demon clan's anger had dissipated. They would not fight without preparing for millions of years. In other words, Feng Zichen still had at least 1,000,000 years to prepare. 100,000 years later, the human clan's ancestral temple suddenly erupted with resplendent light that shot into the clouds. Then, the mighty power of the human Dao poured out and swept through the untainted land. Freeze! At the crucial moment, Feng Zichen took out the Hongmeng Daozhong and sealed the void in all directions. He covered up the commotion caused by the mighty power of the human Dao in time. In this way, the fluctuation of the mighty power of the human Dao did not alarm the untainted land and attract some malicious gazes. Of course, no matter how fast Feng Zichen's movements were, he could not hide it from Nuwa in the palace of Empress Hua. After all, the human clan's ancestral temple was right under her nose. Within the ancestral temple, in the deepest part of the boundless void, there was a huge divine city floating there quietly. The aura of the human Dao flowed all over it, releasing endless light that illuminated the entire void. That was the human Dao imperial court. After hundreds of thousands of years of hard work, Feng Zichen had finally succeeded in refining it. The human Dao imperial court, 1 city, 2 halls, 3 palaces, 4 gates. It symbolized the meaning that Dao gave birth to 1, 1 gave birth to 2, 2 gave birth to 3, and 3 gave birth to all things. Chapter 275. The city referred to the human Dao imperial court itself, symbolizing the meaning of one origin. The 2 halls referred to the ancestral hall and sacred hall. The sacred hall enshrined Nuwa, the 5 elements sacred beasts, and the Daluo Jingxian of the human race. In the future, if a powerful figure appeared to protect the human race, they could also be enshrined there. The ancestral hall enshrined the martyrs of the human race. Those who had sacrificed themselves heroically for the development of the human race. Although they were dead, their spirits were not extinguished. They would sleep in the ancestral hall, forever enjoying the incense offerings of the human race, waiting for the day they returned. The 2 halls, one for life and one for death, used life and death to evolve the Tao of Yin and Yang, explaining the principles of Yin and Yang. The 3 palaces were the human emperor, empress, and crown prince. They used the 3 to balance Yin and Yang, operating the 3 talents, symbolizing the Tao of the 3 talents. The 4 gates referred to the 4 gates of the east, west, north, and south. They corresponded with the 4 cardinal directions and represented the Tao of the 4 cardinal directions. The 5 elements, 6 directions, 7 planets, 8 trigrams, 9 palaces, and 10 directions. These Tao of heaven and earth were all represented by buildings in the human Tao imperial court. The human Tao imperial court was a divine city built with the chaos formation as the foundation. The buildings themselves naturally had extraordinary meaning, corresponding to the 10 connate Tao diagrams that formed the chaos formation. This was the human Tao imperial court, a divine city of the great Tao. It contained the truth of chaos and explained the mysteries of the great Tao. It was all-encompassing and gave birth to 10,000 Tao. Good. Only such a supreme treasure can be passed down from generation to generation and be the indestructible foundation of the human race. With this imperial court, no matter how harsh and difficult the environment the human race faces in the future, it can guarantee that the inheritance will not be lost. In Feng Zichen's eyes, the human Tao imperial court was not only a supreme treasure, but also the future of the human race, shouldering the heavy responsibility of strengthening the human race. Chaos bead come. Feng Zichen reached out, and the chaos bead automatically appeared in his hand, blooming with hazy light. Go! With a wave of his hand, Feng Zichen sent the chaos bead into the center of the human Tao imperial court. Immediately, chaos chi surged out, and the connate Tao diagram spread out one by one, forming a divine diagram of the great Tao and merging with the human Tao imperial court. Boom! The imperial court of human Tao's power was completely activated. Its light grew even more resplendent. Innate formation runes appeared. It was the chaos formation that had activated the imperial court of human Tao's power. Roar, roar, roar. At this moment, tens of thousands of spirits appeared and roared endlessly towards the sky. Vast divine might rumbled out and fully displayed the might of the imperial court of human Tao. Imperial court, the center of power of the world. Looking at the human Tao imperial court before him, Feng Zichen suddenly thought of something. In the future, regardless of the size of the imperial court, they all had imperial seals to show their legitimacy. He, the #1 imperial court of the human Tao, lacked this item. In addition, the imperial jade seal's function was not as simple as symbolizing orthodoxy. It was also a symbol of power and had the ability to unify all forces. It could also suppress one's luck, making it the most suitable item to be used as a legacy treasure. With that in mind, Feng Zichen looked at the imperial court of human Tao again. For some reason, he felt like something was missing. It was no longer as perfect as before. That's true. Although the human Tao imperial court has been completed, it lacks something to suppress it. It can't gather all the forces. Even if I want to pass it down in the future, it will be extremely troublesome. Looks like I still have to refine this human Tao imperial jade seal. Thinking of the benefits of having an imperial jade seal, Feng Zichen was tempted and decided to refine one himself. In the future, the human race also had their own legacy treasure, the Kong Tong seal. However, that was a supreme treasure nurtured by the era of the 3 emperors. It was still the era of the shamans and demons. Who knew how many years he would have to wait for it to appear? Therefore, to Feng Zichen, who was in a hurry to use it, the Kong Tong seal was useless. Since I'm going to refine the human emperor's seal, I'll refine the best one. I'll make it a true supreme treasure of the human race and lead the primordial world races. I'll inherit the fate of the human race and completely replace the Kong Tong seal. Feng Zichen had his own pride. It was fine if he did not refine it, but if he did, his seal had to be the #1 in the primordial world. It completely represented the orthodoxy of the human race and the inheritance of the human race. As for how to deal with the Kongtong seal when it appeared in the future, Feng Zichen felt that with the human emperor's seal, why would he need the Kongtong seal? Anyway, in the future, although the Kongtong seal was a supreme treasure of the human race, it had never been truly controlled by the human race. From the beginning to the end, there was only one owner of the Kongtong seal, and that was the Grand Pure One. Even if the three emperors were at their peak and gathered the destiny of the human race and controlled the rise and fall of the 10,000 races, they were only holding the Kongtong seal on behalf of the Grand Pure One. They were far from being its true owner. Thinking about it, as the symbol of the human emperor, the Kongtong seal had gone through the 3 emperors and 5 emperors. It had gathered the destiny of countless humans. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was the human race's race artifact. However, such an important treasure was not under the control of the human race. Wasn't that a joke? The human race had fought for countless years. Countless ancestors had sacrificed their heads and shed their blood for it. However, they had to give a share of the fruits of their labor to the Grand Pure One for him to enjoy. Not only that, after sharing the fruits of their labor, they had to be grateful to him. How could he tolerate this? Since that was the case, there was no need for the Kongtong seal. This was something that was extremely important to the human race but was completely out of their control. Not only would it not be beneficial to the development of the human race, but it would also restrict the development of the human race. It would also help outsiders snatch the fruits of the human race's labor. Therefore, no matter how good the Kongtong seal was, if it could not be controlled by the human race, it could not be kept. Now, Feng Zichen was going to refine a human emperor's seal that truly belonged to the human race. He was going to use it as the inheritance treasure of the human race and completely destroy the Kongtong seal. At that moment, Feng Zichen's mind stirred and he took out the Panga's fingerbone that he had obtained from the ruins of End. He had originally planned to enshrine that treasure in the ancestral temple to increase the destiny of the human race. However, now that he wanted to refine the human emperor's seal, was there any better material than the Panga's fingerbone? That was the best treasure in the primordial world. It was also the treasure that could represent the orthodoxy of the primordial world. In the primordial world, what treasure could represent orthodoxy more than the remnant body left behind by the creator of the world? No. The Panga's remnant body was the most orthodox treasure in the primordial world. As for the treasure that could represent the orthodoxy of the primordial world, it was enough to represent the orthodoxy of the Tao, not to mention the orthodoxy of the human race. Compared to the Kongtong seal, it was like a firefly compared to the bright moon. There was no comparison at all. If not for the fact that the Tao runes in the Panga's fingerbone had been completely lost, this treasure would have been enough to be refined into the Heavenly Emperor's seal and become the symbol of the entire primordial world. It would have been supreme and become a connate cardinal treasure in one fell swoop. Unfortunately, in order to destroy the Chaos Fiend Celestial, the charm of the great Tao of this treasure had been completely lost. Apart from the indestructible bone body, there was nothing left. Otherwise, he could have directly turned into a connate cardinal treasure. There was no need for outsiders to refine it. Even so, the human emperor's seal refined with the Panga's fingerbone would at least be a supreme-grade connate cardinal treasure. It was much stronger than the Kongtong seal. Chapter 276. Connate was naturally stronger than postnatal. The so-called postnatal supreme treasures were comparable to connate spiritual treasures only in terms of power. They were far inferior in other aspects. As for postnatal supreme treasures that were more powerful than connate spiritual treasures, there were only a few. In the entire untainted land, there were only 3: Buddha Pagoda, Sky-throwing seal, and Kongtong seal. The materials of these 3 treasures were all top grade. Naturally, they could surpass ordinary connate spiritual treasures. But because of this, these 3 supreme treasures were not universal. They could only be found by chance. Otherwise, the limit of postnatal supreme treasures would not be to go against the connate and become connate spiritual treasures. Great Taoist priests, your junior Feng Zichen wants to refine the Emperor's seal to inherit the human path and maintain the order of all living beings. I hope great Taoist priests can help me. After placing Panga's fingerbone on the altar, Feng Zichen tidied his clothes and bowed respectfully. Panga's fingerbone was so hard that Feng Zichen could not refine it. Even if he used a connate supreme treasure for hundreds of years, he would not be able to break it. Unless the top 10 Chaos Demon Gods came, even if Tao Ancestor Hong Jun came, he might not be able to shatter it. The only way to refine Pangu's fingerbone was to pray to Pangu and ask him to refine it. That was why the current scene was happening. As for whether Pangu would agree or not, Feng Zichen was not worried at all. Not to mention that he was favored by Pangu, he still had the heavy responsibility that Pangu had given him. In order to give Feng Zichen some benefits, Pangu would not refuse. Sure enough, not long after Feng Zichen's request, Pangu's fingerbone on the altar changed. There was a flash of purple light, and Pangu's fingerbone gradually melted, forming a purple liquid. Pangu's fingerbone was purple. Because purple was the color of the great Tao. It was the most honorable color in the world. Thank you, great Taoist priests, for your help. Seeing the changes in Pangu's fingerbones, Feng Zichen hurriedly bowed. From now on, Zichen will definitely protect the untainted land and repay the kindness of the great Taoist priests. After thinking for a while, Feng Zichen swore. As for words of thanks, Feng Zichen didn't say them. There was no need for him to say them. Speeding up the evolution of the primordial world and protecting its safety was the greatest reward for Pangu. No matter how much he expressed his gratitude in words, it was not as practical as his actions. Of course, even if Feng Zichen didn't guarantee anything, Pangu wouldn't care. That was because Pangu's love for the primordial world was selfless. He did not need the gratitude of all living beings. The gratitude of all living beings was meaningless to him. Chaos Bead. After staring at the purple liquid in front of him for a long time, Feng Zichen called softly and recalled the Chaos Bead from the human Dao Imperial Court. Although Pangu's fingerbone was good, he had lost his Taoist runes after all. Even if it was refined into the human Emperor's seal, other than suppressing fate and being incomparably hard, it had no other abilities. That wasn't what Feng Zichen wanted. What he wanted was a powerful Khanate supreme treasure that could suppress all worlds. He didn't want a Khanate numinous treasure that was useless other than being hard. Therefore, Feng Zichen took out the Chaos Bead. He wanted to use the Chaos Bead as the core and Pangu's fingerbone as the main body to create a human Emperor's seal that could carry the entire human Dao Imperial Court. With the support of the mighty power of human Dao, it would completely transform into a human supreme treasure. Feng Zichen believed that the Chaos Bead, which was already a half-step Khanate supreme treasure, would definitely be promoted to a Khanate supreme treasure after fusing with Pangu's fingerbone. Even if it couldn't, it would be enough with the mighty power of human Dao. In fact, Feng Zichen was still a little worried about the Chaos Bead being promoted to a Khanate supreme treasure. He was afraid that the heavenly Dao wouldn't allow the Chaos Bead to exist. This wasn't a conclusion he came to by random guesses. There were precedents to follow. The heavenly Dao had always been extremely afraid of Chaos supreme treasures. This was because their powerful power was enough to interfere with the operation of the primordial world and destroy the balance of the world. Therefore, the heavenly Dao would definitely not allow the existence of Chaos supreme treasures. Even if it was possible, it wouldn't allow it. The 36th grade Chaos Green Lotus had contributed greatly when Pangu opened the world. In the primordial world, it could be called a heaven-opening sacred artifact. However, it was because of this that the Khanate supreme treasure left behind by the Chaos Green Lotus, the 24th grade Creation Green Lotus, was completely destroyed by the heavenly Dao with the help of the three pure ones because it had the possibility of growing into a Chaos Green Lotus. From this, it could be seen that the heavenly Dao was afraid of Chaos supreme treasures. It didn't even let go of heaven-opening sacred artifacts. And the Chaos Green Lotus with such a status was shattered by the heavenly Dao. If the Chaos Bead, whose status was far inferior to the Chaos Green Lotus, wanted to advance to a Khanate supreme treasure, his outcome would probably be even worse. He might directly attract the most terrifying heavenly punishment and be destroyed on the spot, completely disappearing. However, after fusing with Pangu's fingerbone and the support of the power of the human Dao, the heavenly Dao might not dare to destroy the Chaos Bead. Between the heavenly Dao and the human Dao, Feng Zichen felt that the heavenly Dao should be stronger. However, Feng Zichen knew that the heavenly Dao would never attack the human Dao. The three paths of heaven, earth, and human were formed by Pangu's essence, energy, and spirit. According to the principles of cultivation, among the three of essence, energy, and spirit, spirit was the highest, followed by qi, and essence was the lowest. Therefore the heavenly Dao was the strongest, followed by the earth Dao, and then the human Tao. However, the path of cultivation was to refine essence into qi, and refine qi into spirit. From this, it could be seen that essence gave birth to life, and qi gave birth to spirit. Essence was the foundation of qi and spirit. In other words, although the human Tao was the weakest among the three paths, it was the foundation of the earth Tao and the heavenly Tao. Without the heavenly Tao, a new heavenly Tao might be born if the human Tao and the earth Tao worked together. However, without the human Tao, the earth Tao and the heavenly Tao would lose their foundation. They would probably lose the meaning of existence and completely disappear. The primordial world would also be destroyed. Therefore, Feng Zichen was sure that the heavenly Tao would not attack the human Tao. Perhaps in the end, the heavenly Tao could only pinch its nose and admit the existence of the Khanate cardinal treasure, the Chaos Bead. No, at that time, it would no longer be the Chaos Bead, but the human Emperor's seal. The human race will prosper. After shouting silently, Feng Zichen first placed the Chaos Bead into the purple liquid. Then, he activated the power of the human Tao and began to refine the human Emperor's seal. Since he was going to refine a human Tao treasure, it was definitely the most suitable one. It would definitely be stronger and more perfect than the human Emperor's seal that Feng Zichen had refined. After thinking for a while, Feng Zichen gritted his teeth and stripped the human Emperor's Tao seat from his body and fused it into the human Emperor's seal that was being refined. As the symbol of the human Emperor, if it did not have the imperial purple qi, how could it suppress the four seas and control the universe? Not only that, after fusing the human Emperor's Tao seat, the next person who held the human Emperor's seal in the future would be able to reach the late stage of the sage-to-be and become the human Emperor. This seal had completely become the symbol of the human Emperor. The human Emperor's seal was not an artifact of a person, but an artifact of a race. Only then could it become a true inheritance treasure. Chapter 277. The human Emperor's seal and the human Emperor's imperial court were inherited treasures that Feng Zichen had specially refined for the human race. Fortunately, after he left the human race, they continued to protect the human race for him. Therefore, Feng Zichen naturally did his best to refine them. He used the best treasures he had. His path was in the boundless starry sky, in the center of the universe, in the wonderful primordial world, and not in this corner of the human race. He had to leave the human race in the end. After the massacre, Feng Zichen would leave the human race and return to the Ziwei star, waiting for the end of the shaman and demon tribulation. After that, he would return to the primordial world as the great emperor of Ziwei and create his own legend. Now, he would do his best to do whatever he could for the human race so that he would not have any regrets in the future. Khanate cardinal treasures were born from the creation of heaven and earth. They contained the truth of the universe and were true treasures of heaven and earth. In theory, Khanate cardinal treasures were the same as primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. The amount of effort required to refine a Khanate supreme treasure was absolutely astonishing. Fortunately, Feng Zichen was only responsible for providing the materials for the human emperor's seal. The rest was refined by the human emperor himself. Otherwise, if Feng Zichen refined it himself, even if he had all the materials and exhausted all his effort, he would not be able to refine it. Just like that, another 10,000 years passed. The refinement of a Khanate cardinal treasure was too difficult. With sufficient preparation, even with the human emperor's ability, it took 10,000 years to refine it successfully. Is this a Khanate cardinal treasure? It's indeed extraordinary. At this moment, in front of Feng Zichen, the chaos bead and Panga's fingerbone had long disappeared. Only a large purple seal was left. This was the human emperor's seal, a Khanate cardinal treasure. A Khanate cardinal treasure refined by the human emperor could represent the human emperor's will and carry the human emperor's seal. The human emperor's seal was not only the seal of the human race, but also the seal of the human race. It was the symbol of the human race's supreme power. It represented supreme power and could dominate all races and mobilize the power of all spirits. Of course, Feng Zichen did not dare to mobilize the power of all races. Did he really think that the shamans and demons were gone? If he really mobilized the power of all races, the experts of the shamans and demons would sense it and kill Feng Zichen before he could do so. In the last battle, the shamans and demons had declared the human emperor's majesty. They did not fear of the saints. Therefore, Feng Zichen had no ability to resist the shamans and demons. Emperor's seal. Emperor's seal. Times had changed. Perhaps in the future, when the era of the liches had passed, the human emperor's seal would be able to unleash its full power. But now they couldn't. The light of the shamans and demons was too dazzling, overshadowing everything. Even saints couldn't compete with them, let alone connate cardinal treasures. Emperor, shamans, god. Shaman his shaman was shamans. Just to wait. They, races. Withdrawing his unnecessary thoughts, Feng Zichen looked at the emperor's seal. That was a connate cardinal treasure, the top dharma treasure in the untainted land. It was his first time seeing it. The emperor's seal floated quietly in the air. There was no great Tao, no dharma, and no strange phenomenon. Apart from the soft purple light that lingered around his body, which was showing his mysticism, he looked ordinary and could not even be compared to an ordinary acquired spirit treasure. However, this inconspicuous seal was a connate cardinal treasure that all living beings in the untainted land dreamed of. There were less than 10 of them in the entire untainted land. Return to nature. Only this sentence could explain the current state of the emperor's seal. Feng Zichen reached out and touched the emperor's seal. Boom! At this moment, the human emperor's seal erupted. It was like a resplendent galaxy. Incomparably dazzling light bloomed from its body. Galaxy after galaxy fell from his body, carrying countless stars. It was magnificent and exuded a terrifying aura. It swept through the vast void and even intimidated the heavens and shook the great thousand universe. For a time, countless people in the untainted land trembled and fell to the ground. They could not help but submit to it from their souls. They wanted to kowtow to it as if they were facing an emperor. The human path was all spirits. The human emperor was the emperor of all spirits. The emperor's seal was the symbol of the human emperor. It was what he relied on to control all spirits. Therefore, when the emperor's seal appeared, it was like the arrival of the human emperor. All spirits instantly sensed it and wanted to worship it to show their respect. Then, the galaxy became brighter and brighter, emitting a monstrous pressure. The countless stars it carried also became bigger and bigger, revealing their true appearance. Those stars were not stars at all. They were clearly enormous figures. Because they were emitting a dazzling light, they looked like bright stars from afar. These figures were all spirits. They were the external manifestation of the human path. They contained endless power and wanted to destroy everything and return the world to its original point. They were like gods and demons that had descended. They were high and mighty, as if they wanted to tear the earth apart. It was also like a vast world that had lost control and wanted to tear the entire universe apart. The aura of destruction soared. Even the great divines were shocked. This power was too terrifying. It was enough to shake one's heart and make one unable to resist. Even the world was trembling. A connate cardinal treasure was born. Moreover, it was a cardinal treasure that belonged to the human path. At this moment, a realization appeared in the hearts of many great divines, allowing them to know the reason for the matter. Connate cardinal treasure. Where is it? Without any hesitation, the great divines moved. Powerful divine thoughts rose from their bodies and swept through the entire untainted land, trying to find the location of the human path cardinal treasure. Boom! Under their divine thoughts, the entire untainted land was shaking. The void creaked as if it could not bear the weight. Even the operation of the rules of heaven and earth was temporarily stagnant. The living beings of the untainted land were pressed to the ground, trembling uncontrollably. Their hearts were filled with extreme fear, thinking that the world was about to end. Unfortunately, these great divines were disappointed. They searched every corner that they could search, but they did not find any trace of the connate cardinal treasure. If it were not for the remnant aura of the connate cardinal treasure that was leaked when it was born, they would have thought that what they sensed just now was an illusion. Forget it. In the end, it's not fated with us. After a few sighs, the divine thoughts that were wandering in the void retreated one after another. The untainted land returned to peace. The shadow of death that covered the hearts of all living beings slowly dissipated. The connate cardinal treasure was flawless and contained a complete great Tao. It was the most perfect existence in the untainted land. Its essence was equivalent to the primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. In other words, a connate cardinal treasure was equivalent to a primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. Chapter 278. Primordial Chaos Daluo Jinqian's Khanate origin was the embryo of a Khanate supreme treasure. Even if Khanate supreme treasures had all kinds of restrictions, their essence was still higher than that of great divinities. In this way, how could those great divinities calculate the whereabouts of Khanate supreme treasures? As for saints, they couldn't calculate the whereabouts of Khanate supreme treasures. Khanate supreme treasures couldn't develop intelligence and couldn't transform. Because of this, they had the strength of saints but couldn't take the initiative to use it. As the saying went, there were gains and losses. Although Khanate supreme treasures had lost the possibility of transforming, they had achieved unimaginable achievements in shielding the heavenly secrets. Unless a Khanate supreme treasure appeared on its own, even if saints turned the entire primordial world upside down, they wouldn't be able to find any traces of Khanate supreme treasures. Otherwise, the two saints Zhu and Ti would have searched the primordial world for Khanate supreme treasures long ago. They wouldn't be sitting peacefully on Mount Meru like now, drooling at the Khanate supreme treasures in the hands of the three pure ones. They really couldn't find them. Holding the human emperor's seal in his hand, Feng Zichen had a feeling that he wasn't holding the human emperor's seal, but the entire race. At this moment, he seemed to be able to control the rise and fall of all races and the life and death of countless living beings. Of course, Feng Zichen knew that this was just an illusion. Controlling the life and death of all living beings was the power of the true human emperor. And he was only the emperor of the human race. He still had a long way to go before he could become the human emperor. He was far from being able to do this now. At most, he could control the life and death of the human race and borrow the power of all living beings. Rise! He sank his mind into the human emperor's seal. In an instant, everything about the human emperor's seal was reflected in Feng Zichen's sea of consciousness. That's right, it was the human emperor's seal. Apart from being a supreme treasure of the human race, the human emperor's seal was also the center of the human emperor's seal. It controlled everything about the human emperor's seal. Rise! Rumble! The entire human emperor's seal was shaking. The chaos formation was activated, and the great Tao divine diagram slowly spread out. Chaos chi surged out, and the phantoms of all living beings appeared one after another. Then, the human emperor's figure suddenly disappeared from this place and appeared in the sky above the East Sea. The imperial dynasty was vast and boundless. The moment it appeared, it covered the sun, causing the East Ocean to sink into darkness. The changes in the sky immediately caught the attention of the human race. Then, what's that? Looking at the huge divine city in the sky, the clansmen fell into deep shock. They had lived on the shores of the East Ocean for a long time and had never seen such a vast and majestic imperial dynasty. They were already really calm that they didn't exclaim. "Is this the imperial court your majesty mentioned? It's unimaginably powerful. It's us who are ignorant." The ordinary clansmen didn't know what this was, but the elders of the human race understood the origin of the imperial court in the sky after some thought. If there were no surprises, this was the human emperor who had gone against the wishes of the masses to establish the imperial court of the human race. Just by looking at it from afar, even with their Tai Xianxia cultivation, they felt a sense of fear from the bottom of their hearts. From this, it could be seen how powerful this imperial court was. Thinking back to what they had said to Feng Zichen earlier, it seemed a bit laughable now. Perhaps they were really old and couldn't keep up with the times. Ignoring the clansmen's shock, Feng Zichen didn't show himself. Instead, he took out a fishing net. Now, the human emperor's imperial court wasn't complete yet. He still needed to make some preparations. Behind Feng Zichen, the world tree appeared silently. It lowered the world origin and burned the fishing net in Feng Zichen's hand. At the same time, the human emperor's seal also trembled. It spewed out chaos origin and burned the fishing net. The chaos bead was only the core. Feng Zichen had refined it into the human emperor's seal. Its essence hadn't been destroyed and still existed. It was just that its appearance had changed. Moreover, after transforming into the human emperor's seal, the chaos bead had completely advanced to a Khanate treasure. It nurtured even more chaos origin. Not only that, the chaos bead's characteristics didn't disappear with its change. It could still absorb the fragments of the past and continue to advance. The fishing net in Feng Zichen's hand was none other than the net that had captured Ao Shui back then. It was the first net in the primordial world, an acquired merit numinous treasure. He took out this net. Just like how he refined the Swerin lamp back then, He wanted to refine another inheritance treasure for the human race. An inescapable net. Before this net, there was no net-shaped numinous treasure in the primordial world. In other words, this net had great luck and great merit. A treasure refined with it could definitely seal all directions and trap all living beings. It couldn't be more appropriate to call it an inescapable net. Now, Feng Zichen's cultivation had far surpassed before. Refining such a numinous treasure didn't require as much effort as before. Not long after, the fishing net completely merged with the luck of the human race and became a new inheritance treasure. Go! Throwing out the inescapable net, Feng Zichen nodded in satisfaction as he watched it expand and envelop the human emperor's palace. After being enveloped by the inescapable net, the radiance on the human emperor's palace gradually dimmed. It became less eye-catching and ordinary. Compared to the ordinary cities in the primordial world, there was no difference other than floating in the air. Now that the human race was weak, it was better not to be too ostentatious. It was better to accumulate food and slowly become king. Elders, the human emperor's palace has been completed. Do you want to follow me to take a look? Looking at the human elders who were filled with emotion, Feng Zichen asked. Of course. Such a supreme treasure is the first time we've seen it in our lives. If we don't take a look, wouldn't we regret it for the rest of our lives? The elders nodded and said excitedly. To them, even connate numinous treasures were rare, let alone a supreme treasure like the human emperor's palace. Elders, you must be joking. Smiling, Feng Zichen led the elders into the palace. While Feng Zichen was in seclusion to refine the human emperor's palace, the primordial world also quietly changed. On Kunlun Mountain, the conflict between the disciples of the Chan sect and the Jie sect became more and more irreconcilable. The disciples of the two sects quarreled all day, turning the peaceful holy land of Kunlun Mountain into a wet market. Insults were endless. If not for Xianxia's suppression, the disciples of the two sects would have already fought each other. However, even so, as the conflict between the two sides deepened, it had already affected the saints. Because of this, the Grand Master of Heaven and the Primordial Lord of Heaven had already quarreled several times. The three pure ones were not far away from splitting up. On the sun, Taiyi's aura was even stronger. Behind him, the Taiyi wheel rose slowly, operating the supreme truths of the heavenly Tao, reflecting the rules of the world and encompassing everything in the universe. As it spun, it seemed as if countless worlds were born and destroyed in it, deducing all kinds of truths. It was extremely terrifying. Chapter 279. A flawless primordial and supreme Tao rune emanated from Donghuang Taiyi's body. It distorted endless time and space and changed the laws of heaven and earth. Clearly, after the last battle, Donghuang Taiyi's strength had improved again. He was not far from the primordial chaos Tao realm and could step into it at any time. Taiyi was born with the bell of chaos. He could be said to be the true son of an era. In the primordial world, whether it was the past or the future, there was no one else who was born with a connate cardinal treasure other than him. Even the first connate life form born in the primordial world, Daoist Hongjun, was far inferior to Taiyi when he was born. The three pure ones and the 12 ancestral shamans of Pangu did not have connate cardinal treasures when they were born. It could be said that Taiyi's treatment when he was born was the best in the primordial world. No one could compare to him. Logically speaking, Taiyi, who was born with such a halo, should be the most dazzling light in the primordial world, suppressing everything. In fact, it was the same. Ever since Taiyi descended, no one of his peers could compete with him. He defeated all his enemies, suppressing his peers until they could not breathe. Under his brilliance, they were overshadowed. If the three pure ones and the others had not received the help of Hongming's purple qi and reached the heavens in one step, becoming saints, Taiyi's strength was still the best in the primordial world. With Taiyi's talent, even if he could not become a saint, he could become a primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. But now, he was still in the quasi-saint realm and had not taken that crucial step. This was completely because the heavenly court was dragging him down. That's right, it was the heavenly court's burden. To Di Jun and the others, the establishment of the heavenly court had great benefits. It could allow them to use the providence of heaven and earth to cultivate, improve their comprehension, and quickly break through to a higher realm. But it was different for Taiyi. He did not need the help of the providence of heaven and earth at all, because his comprehension was the best in the primordial world. There was no way for him to improve. Instead, after the establishment of the heavenly court, countless karma gathered and dragged down Tai's cultivation. It made him unable to transcend heaven and earth and achieve primordial chaos. He could not break through to the primordial chaos Tao realm. In the eyes of outsiders, it was the heavenly court that made Tai Donghuang famous. But the truth was that the celestial court was a burden to Tai, preventing him from becoming the primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. However, Tai was still Tai in the end. In the battle with Pangu's true body, he had profited from the disaster and comprehended the chaos Tao insight. He believed that it would not be long before he could take another step forward and become the primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. At that time, it would be a grand occasion in the primordial world. Something had happened to the demon clan, and the witch clan was no exception. Strolling in the western land of the primordial world, Hutu could not help but look sad. This sorrowful expression was for the western continent. As the mother of the earth, the emotions of the west could not be hidden from her senses. The resentment hidden in the depths of the earth was clearly transmitted into his heart, causing a wave of sadness to surge out from his heart. Wisps of holy light bloomed from Hutu's body and surged towards the western continent, spreading for hundreds of millions of miles. It purified the tribulation aura, murderous aura, resentment aura, and a series of hidden auras. This was the origin of the earth, the foundation of Hutu. It was formed by her cultivation and was her innate origin. In other words, she was saving the western continent at the cost of damaging her own origin. Even if Hutu's strength was not the best in the primordial world, she could still be ranked at the top of the first rate. Her innate origin was naturally extraordinary. If all of it was taken out, it would be a top-grade innate spirit treasure. Even if it was only a part, it would be easy to help a cultivator at the peak of Tai Jingxian break through to the Daluo Jingxian. If such a miraculous treasure was integrated into any place, it could create a blessed land. But in the western continent, it could not. The battle back then had completely destroyed the western continent, causing the land here to almost lose the possibility of recovery. Although Hutu's strength was powerful, she was still much weaker than the demon ancestor Rahu. The demon ancestor Rahu had done everything he could to self-destruct. How could the Hutu sacrifice a part of her innate origin to make up for the damage? If the western continent could be repaired with the Earth's origin alone, Jie would have done such a simple thing in advance. How could he sit back and watch the western continent decline? After all, with their strength, it was not difficult to find the Earth's origin. The Earth's origin was really useless. In order to revive the western continent, they had used all the methods they could think of. As a treasure of the Earth's origin was naturally used at the first moment. But unfortunately, it was useless. No method was useful. At this point, unless there was a huge change in the western continent, there was no way for it to recover. Otherwise, Tao ancestor Hongjun would not have taken out 2 saint positions to resolve this karma. Hutu wanted to use her own innate origin to repair the western continent, but she was thinking too much. In the depths of the earth, a powerful resentment suddenly surged out. With the power to erode everything, it destroyed the earth that had been repaired by the front and back earth, restoring it to the previous ruined place. Sigh! The destruction caused by the great war of immortals and demons is so terrifying. Countless years have passed, but there is still no chance of the western continent recovering. The change in front of her was not beyond her expectations. With her cultivation, how could she not know that her innate origin was useless? But that was not the reason why she did not act. If she tried, she might fail. But if she did not try, she would never succeed. Perhaps, Father God will have a way. As she sighed, Hutu's eyes lit up as she thought of a possibility. The primordial world was formed by Panga's flesh and blood. They did not have the ability to repair the primordial world, but Pangu definitely could. Pangu was omnipotent. This was recognized by the primordial world. Father God, Hutu has offended you. After bowing to the void, Hutu formed a Tao seal and invited Pangu's heart from Pangu's hall. Pangu's heart was the greatest gift that Pangu had left for the Magi. It was also the reason why the 12 ancestral Magi were confident that they were more orthodox than the 3 pure ones. Otherwise, why would they have Pangu's hall, the 12 divine beings' formation, and Pangu's heart? As for the 3 pure ones, other than the heaven-opening mark, only the mysterious yellow pagoda of heaven and earth was inferior to them. Panga's heart was indeed the most precious treasure of the Magi and the primordial world. Usually, the Magi would worship him in Pangu's hall and not use him unless it was a critical moment. Today, Hutu could invite Pangu's heart not to repair the Western continent, but to draw a map of the primordial world. The damage to the Western continent was too severe. It was almost impossible to restore the ancient landscape and draw a map of the primordial world. Therefore, the Magi planned to use the ability of Pangu's heart to communicate with the Western continent and find the most primitive landscape of the ancient West from the remaining historical traces. Chapter 280. The drawing of the map of the primordial world was related to the future of the Magi. It was of great importance. For that, it was worth inviting Pangu's heart. However, the Magi planned to draw the map of the primordial world. However, when the Lady of Earth saw that the western land was barren, she suddenly felt benevolent. She wanted to repair the western land while drawing the map of the primordial world. If the other ancestral Magi knew about it, it would be terrible. One had to know that Pangu had already transformed into the world. The heart he had left behind had long lost its endless power. The power that Pangu's heart had now been accumulated over countless years. Every bit that was consumed required a lot of time to recover. If not for that, the Magi would have long unified the primordial world with Pangu's heart. Not to mention the demons, even a saint might not be able to resist the power of Pangu's heart. How could she worship Pangu's heart in the Pangu Hall like now? Unless she had no choice, she would not use it. In the primordial world, the stronger the power, the more restricted it would be to prevent breaking the balance that the heavenly Tao was trying to maintain. If she used the power of Pangu's heart to repair the western land, it was hard to say if she could repair it. However, the power that Pangu's heart had accumulated over so many years would definitely be exhausted. Then, the Magi would suffer a huge loss. Therefore, if the other ancestral Magi knew what the Lady of Earth was thinking, they would definitely not allow her to mess around. Unfortunately, they did not know. Of course, they would not have thought that the Lady of Earth would use the power of Pangu's heart without their consent. Go! After taking out Pangu's heart, the Lady of Earth cut her wrist and dripped her blood essence on it. As the direct descendant of Pangu, the ancestral Magi could use their blood essence as a guide to maximize the power of Pangu's heart. Dong! 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 In an instant, Pangu's heart seemed to have come alive. It began to beat violently and burst out with a bright purple light that enveloped the mountains and rivers within a radius of billions of miles. The sound of the heartbeat wasn't loud at first, but as time passed, it gradually resonated with the world. First the laws of heaven and earth pulsated, and then the great Tao pulsated as well. The entire western continent was shaking. Heaven and earth produced an indescribable Tao rhythm. Countless strange phenomena appeared in the western continent at the same time. It was brilliant and varied, and it attracted the attention of countless western creatures. What? On Mount Meru, Xianxia and Jianghu, who were meditating on the great Tao, were shocked out of their meditation by the sudden change. That's Hutu. What is he doing? What are the treasures around him? As soon as they came back to their senses, their eyes were attracted by Hutu. There were only 2 of them in the west. Hutu's strength was as dazzling as the sun when she came to the west. It would be strange if they did not discover her. That's Pangu's heart. There's no mistaking it. This aura is incomparably powerful, incomparably imposing, incomparably holy, making us feel ashamed of our inferiority. Only the great Taoist priests can do this. This is Pangu's heart. In just a moment, Xianxia and Jianghu recognized the origin of Pangu's heart. In the untainted land, only Pangu's strength could make saints feel ashamed of their inferiority. Hutu is repairing the western continent? She is actually using Pangu's heart to repair the western continent. Is she crazy? She is repairing the ancestral bloodline of the West at the cost of the wizard tribe's strength. What benefits does she get by doing this? But the next discovery shocked and surprised Xianxia. Hutu did not hesitate to consume the foundation of the wizard tribe to strengthen the western continent. Didn't it sound ridiculous? Was Hutu an idiot? Perhaps Xianxia and Jianghu had schemed too much, and their hearts had gradually changed. They had forgotten that there were people in this world who had great love and selfless dedication. In their eyes, Hutu's actions were really absurd and ridiculous. Wisps of purple light flowed out of Panga's heart and poured into the western continent, constantly repairing the damaged earth veins. Panga was in existence on par with Tao. His strength could no longer be called strength. It could be called Tao Aura, which contained the power of Tao. Under this power, the resentment in the depths of the western continent that could not be eliminated slowly dissipated, causing a new trace of vitality to appear on the western continent. As the resentment of the earth dissipated, the western ancestral bloodline, which had not moved since the end of the ancient times, suddenly fluctuated under Mount Meru. There was a wisp of vitality. Although it was weak, it really existed and represented infinite possibilities. The western continent is saved. Seeing this wisp of vitality, Xianxia could not help but shout excitedly. As long as this wisp of vitality was not lost, the western ancestral bloodline would completely recover one day. As for how long it would take, it would depend on the ability of Xianxia and Jane. Roar! A resonant dragon's roar rang out, bringing with it the joy of regaining life. It spread throughout the entire western continent. This was the sound of the western ancestral bloodline. Suddenly, a golden rain fell from the sky, washing away the murderous aura and tribulation aura that filled the western lands. The entire western continent was cleared. Buzz! At this moment, Panga's heart suddenly trembled for a moment. He retracted all the strange phenomena, broke through the void, and returned to Panga's palace. It was because only a few 100,000 years had passed since the last great witch-demon war. The power that Panga's heart had consumed had not fully recovered. The power required to restore the western continent was enormous. In just a short while, it had consumed 70 to 80% of the remaining power of Panga's heart. Panga's heart was the backup plan that Pangu had left for the sorcerer tribe. Realizing that his power had been severely depleted, he would not allow Hutu to cause trouble. He immediately retracted his power and returned to Panga's palace. No matter what the situation was, Panga's heart would retain 10% of its power in case anything happened to the sorcerer tribe and he was unable to help. This was the last guarantee that Pangu could make for the sorcerer tribe. Hutu. Alas! In Panga's palace, as soon as Panga's heart returned, Jianghu sensed the change in his body. At that moment, Jianghu's face changed directly. He became extremely angry, and his face was full of anger. The void was turbulent because of it, and layers of ripples were formed. But after that, he sighed helplessly and sat back down. After all, it was the responsibility of the sorcerer tribe to protect the untainted land. They had failed to do anything since the western continent had been destroyed. What Huta did today was not wrong. Jianghu had no reason to blame her. That's not right. The Lady of Earth was wrong. That was, she didn't discuss it with the Jianghu and the others beforehand. Chapter 281. Rumble. Although Panga's heart had left, the changes in the western land did not stop. Connate chi spewed out from under Mount Meru and spread towards the entire western land. Under this influence, a touch of green gradually appeared in the barren western land. It was the Connate spiritual medicine. Since the end of the ancient times, the Connate spiritual medicine had finally appeared in the western land again. In the past, not to mention the Connate spiritual medicine, even ordinary Connate spiritual herbs were rare. It was considered good fortune to be able to see one within a radius of 100,000 miles. The reappearance of the Connate spiritual medicine was enough to show that Huta's efforts were effective. The western land had regained its vitality, and was developing in a good direction. Whoosh! After the changes in the western land ended, a ray of light flew out from the deepest part of the land and entered Huta's body. It was a memory hidden in the depths of the earth. It recorded the changes of time, the evolution of the earth, and endless creation. Moreover, it also recorded the purpose of Hutu's visit, the map of the western land of the primordial world. This also made Hutu heave a sigh of relief. In order to repair the western land, she had almost exhausted the power of Panga's heart. If she had not obtained the map of the western land, even if she was an ancestral wizard, she would not be able to explain herself when she returned to the wizard tribe. One must know that Panga's heart did not belong to her alone, but to the entire wizard tribe. She did not discuss with the other ancestral wizards and used the power of Panga's heart to repair the western land without authorization. This was obviously a little overboard. Even if the other ancestral wizards did not say anything, They would still be dissatisfied in their hearts, and it would affect the unity of the wizard tribe. The unity of the 12 ancestral wizards was the foundation of the wizard tribe's domination of the primordial world. If their hearts were scattered, the wizard tribe was not far from extinction. Since her purpose of coming here had been achieved, the resentment in the hearts of her brothers and sisters should be reduced a lot. Just as Hutu was thinking about this, a change occurred in the sky again. A bright golden light appeared. It was boundless and covered the sky, illuminating the western land with a golden color. Even in the void, countless lotus flowers appeared, swaying and emitting a fragrance. The heaven and earth merit chi had arrived. The western land was revitalized, making the primordial world more perfect. This was a great merit. The endless creatures of the west benefited from this, opening up their Tao paths. This was a great virtue. Just like that, the heavens and earth immediately reacted and sent down boundless merit as a reward. This merit was even more than the merit that Feng Zichen obtained when he established the connate sword Tao and the three pure ones established the three sects. It was second only to the creation of humans by Nuwa. It was really rare in the primordial world. The merit split into two in the air. 80% flew to Hutu while 20% flew to the shamans and fused with their providence. Logically speaking, this 20% merit should have landed in Panga's heart. Unfortunately, Panga's heart was too extraordinary. If he did not take the initiative to appear, the heavenly Tao could not find any traces of him. He could only give the merit that belonged to him to the destiny of the Magi. However, it was almost the same anyway. Panga's heart did not need merit because it was useless to him. In this world, there were not many treasures that could be of use to Pangu. If even the great Tao merit points couldn't do it, then the heaven and earth merit points wouldn't do either. If the merit of the great Tao was useful, the three pure ones, the 12 ancestral magi, and the primordial world would not exist. Go! Looking at the merit flying towards her, Huta waved her jade-like arm and split it into two. One part of it fused into the destiny of the magi, and the other part fused into the western land. Immediately, the western land changed again. It rumbled and trembled. Earth veins recovered and earth chi spewed out like dragons and tigers. The density of connate chi increased greatly. In fact, there was already vitality surging in the place where the earth veins gathered. Clearly, connate life forms were being nurtured. Nurturing life was the foundation of the earth. The western land was nurturing connate life forms again. This meant that it was becoming more stable. It was gradually getting rid of the influence of the immortal fiend war and was beginning to emit vitality. In the unknown land of the primordial world, where the destiny of the Magi was, it was pitch black as far as the eye could see. That was negative karma. It was boundless and could not be seen. It covered up the destiny of the Magi and could not be seen at all. This meant that the luck of the Magi was over. If nothing went wrong, the Magi would not be far from complete decline. However, at this moment, something unexpected happened. 2 merit points descended from the sky and forcefully opened a gap in the boundless negative karma, revealing the destiny of the Magi. This meant that the Magi had a chance of survival. A change had happened. This was something that had never happened in history. According to the original trajectory of history, Hutu, like most connate god fiends, would not come to the barren west, let alone repair the western land. Now, for the sake of the primordial world, not only did Hutu come, but she also revived the western land, causing everything to change. Feng Zichen changed history once again. The situation in the primordial world became more and more incomprehensible. Goddess Hutu is merciful and boundless. At that moment, all the living beings in the west prostrated on the ground and chanted the name of Goddess Hutu, praising her benevolence and greatness. These praises came from the bottom of their hearts. It could be said that in the hearts of all the living beings in the west, Hutu's status had already surpassed that of Xianxia. After all, no matter how good Xianxia was, he could not benefit every living being in the west. However, Hutu had done it. Even the two saints, Xianxia and Xianxia, bowed slightly to show their respect. Previously, the two of them had suspected that Hutu had some ulterior motive. However, after seeing Hutu put merit into the western land, they completely dispelled their doubts. They understood that Hutu was truly selfless. How enormous would that amount of merit be? Xianxia and Xianxia believed that it could immediately make someone become a primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. However, Hutu did not even hesitate to send such merit out. Xianxia's eyebrows twitched when he saw that. It was also this scene that made them understand that Hutu was a truly merciful person. Just like Pangu, she had great love for the primordial world. At that moment, their hearts were filled with respect for Hutu. That was the character that a saint should have. They were far inferior. It was really shameful for a saint. One had to know that the current Hutu was very different from the Hutu in the legends of history. In the past, merit was useless to the Magi, so they could give it up. However, ever since Feng Zichen passed down the Tao of God-fiends, the Magi had been cultivating their true spirits day and night. They could already use their true spirits to absorb merit. Merit was no longer something dispensable to the Magi. It was extremely important. It was a treasure that could increase one's cultivation level. However, even so, Hutu still did not hesitate to give up her merit. How could this not be admirable? This kind of person who had great love in his heart, the word great compassion was created for him. Chapter 282. Hutu, this. Naturally, the changes in the West could not be hidden from the perception of the great mediums. Therefore, they immediately cast their gazes over. When they saw Hutu's actions, they were speechless for a moment. They asked themselves, if it were them, they would not give up in the face of the merit that was enough to become the primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. How could the primordial world be more important than their own Tao path? Moreover, it was a barbarian land in the West. It was not worth sacrificing their own Tao path for him. If it were the East, these powerful beings might hesitate, but it was impossible for them to do so in the West. If the West was crippled, so be it. It was nothing to the entire primordial world. Anyway, there were no experts or treasures there. What was there to pity about a dead place? However, although their choices were different, their hearts were filled with respect for Hutu, just like Xianxia. Hutu's actions seemed silly, but it was really rare. The temptation of the primordial chaos Tao realm was not something that anyone could resist. In the primordial world, there were only a few people who were as pure and loving as Hutu. It was precisely because of the existence of these people that the primordial world could reach this day step by step. Anyone with great love was a treasure of the primordial world and worthy of everyone's admiration. That was because in their hearts, they were thinking about the primordial world and all living beings in the primordial world. Their love was selfless. Everyone could feel it, regardless of friend or foe. Apart from the existence that wanted to destroy the world, who could resent such a person? Previously, we were saying that the Magi were fierce. Compared to the three pure ones, they didn't look like the descendants of the great Taoist priests at all. Today, we judged people by their appearance. The three pure ones are far inferior to the Magi. Seeing what Hutu had done and then looking at the actions of the three pure ones, they thought of the past. The powerful beings sighed and felt that they had misjudged. On Kunlun Mountain, the three pure ones were silent. What Hutu had done was really unexpected. They could not help but feel ashamed. When they heard the words of their fellow Taoists, the shame in their hearts grew even stronger. They could not say anything. Although the powerful beings had many thoughts, none of them planned to develop in the West. After all, the West was too far behind the East. Even if it recovered, it was still far from being comparable to the East. At most, it would turn from a barren land to a barren land. It would not be able to enter the eyes of the powerful beings. Moreover, so many years had passed, and the East had long since become the place where the providence of heaven and earth gathered. The essence of the entire primordial world was gathered in the East. How can the West compare to the East? Not to mention reviving a portion of it, even if it were to revive all of it and return to the golden age of the ancient era, it would still be impossible. Seeing the changes in the Western land, Xianxia and Jianghu were speechless. It was them who had gauged the heart of a gentleman with their own mean measure. Although Hutu had not completely repaired the land of the West, with her efforts, the West had been rejuvenated. This meant that the Western continent had the possibility of repairing itself. As time passed, the Western ancestral vein would completely recover, and the other branches would also be affected and recover one by one. At that time, even if the Western continent couldn't reproduce the glory of the ancient times, it would be much better than it was now. Alas! In the end, we have desires and have the heart to gain and lose. Ever since we became saints, The two of us have been scheming and doing sinister things. We have gradually forgotten our original intentions. In this world, there are still people who love greatly. They are selfless in the primordial world. They are far from what we can compare to. After a long while, the Taoist priest finally spoke. Then he stood up, tidied his clothes, and said to Taoist Yuan-Ti beside him, "Junior brother, follow me to see fellow Taoist Hutu and thank her for her kindness on behalf of the countless living beings in the West." "Senior brother, you're right. Fellow Taoist Hutu has great love and was born with a merciful heart. Her actions are worthy of the descendants of the great Taoist priests." Nodding, Taoist Yuan-Ti praised. Hutu's character could be said to be the closest to Pangu in the primordial world. At the same time, they were the ones who benefited the most from the recovery of the Western continent. As the ancestral magus of the Magi race, Hutu was destined not to stay in the West for long. So what if her status was higher than theirs? Time was the most terrifying weapon in the world. After countless years had passed, the living beings in the West would continue to replace each other. Other than the immortal existence, who would remember Hutu's contributions? At that time, all the credit would be given to them. The West would still be theirs. No one could shake it. Hutu was not to be feared. Fellow Taoist, please wait. When the phenomenon of heaven and earth disappeared, Hutu was ready to leave. After all, she had achieved her goal of coming here. She had nothing else to ask for from the West. Why should she stay here? However, just as Hutu was about to leave, Yuan-Ti hurriedly ran over and stopped her. In order to show his respect, Yuan-Ti did not use his magical power to teleport. Instead, he flew over. Therefore, he did not appear in front of Hutu immediately. "Greetings, fellow Taoists." Hutu was not surprised by the appearance of the two of them. No matter what, the Western continent was their territory. It would be strange if they did not come to take a look after she had caused such a big commotion here. "Yuan-Ti, thank you for your great kindness, fellow Taoist." Yuan-Ti came in front of Hutu and did not say anything. He first bowed to Hutu 3 times. The first bow was for themselves. They thanked Hutu for repairing the Western continent. The second bow was for the Western continent. The third bow was for the Western living beings. As the true ruler of the Western continent, Yuan-Ti had the right to thank Hutu on behalf of the Western continent and countless living beings. Originally, in this world, apart from heaven and earth, only Hongjun, Dijun, and Dijiang could accept the gift of the saint. No one else could. Heaven and earth, needless to say. Hongjun was the Tao ancestor. The saints were taught by him, so he could naturally accept their gifts. Dijun was the lord of heaven and earth. Dijiang was the eldest son of Pangu. The two of them had noble statuses and were not inferior to the saints. Of course, they could accept their gifts. But today, because Hutu had repaired the Western continent, she was blessed by the will of the earth and her status was constantly rising. She could accept this gift. Fellow Taoists, is there anything else? If there's nothing else, Hutu will leave first. The witch clan still has important matters for me to deal with. Hutu calmly accepted the gift of the two saints and asked. After helping Yuan-Ti so much, of course, Hutu was calm. Since fellow Taoist still has important matters to attend to, Poor Wei will not keep you. When we have time in the future, Poor Wei and Dijiang will definitely visit you in person to thank you for your kindness today. Yuan-Ti bowed again and said, "You're tuning in to the Wisdom Diary YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.